Chapter 2:11 The rise of land in prosperous areas is painful. Sure enough, the Battle of Wancheng in the hinterland of the Central Plains completely destroyed the original commercial trading center centered on Wancheng and radiated Nanyang, and Fengyao was cheaper in vain. Speaking of which, Fengyao is not a good location as a commercial center. After all, it is too remote. But now the situation is that although Fengyao does not have a geographical advantage, it has taken up a lot of time and people. When the commercial center of Wancheng was covered by war and the merchants of the world were unsaleable, the two major chambers of commerce with the Northern Zhen family and the Zhuzhumi family as the core settled in Fengyao, and at the same time, the tax rate in Qingju has changed greatly, attracting the attention of most businessmen in the world. Chen Shi looked at this scene indifferently. The change in the tax rate can be said to be a fixed trend. The gap in the crushing level is no longer something that can be reversed in one or two sentences. As for what will happen if the world becomes less chaotic in the future, Chen Shi will only smile. Troubled times are the best time for businessmen to make money. I have never heard of fewer merchants in troubled times. That is, only in peaceful years can merchants be controlled. Merchants in troubled times are more active. After all, there are many loopholes in the tax rate in troubled times. There is one more thing missing. Chen Shi pinched the wine cup and smiled slightly at Guizhou, then drank it all in one gulp, put down the wine cup and looked at Guizhou. Is it a library? Guizhou casually picked up the side dishes on the table. Well, I think the household registration of the literati has also been made as 7, 7, 80, 80, and 80, and the scribes of this era can be used as the image that the people of the world look forward to, and the qualifications they have are naturally what the people need, an alternative top-down. Chen Shi nodded and said, Fengyao is not a good place, too biased, if it is in the Central Plains. The current tax revenue can be 20% more. Chen Shi's indifferent expression made Guizhou slightly embarrassed. After all, everyone, including him, was blocking Chen Shi's business law, and they didn't want to be shocked by the changes in Fengyao City in just over 20 days. Zichuan, what happened before was indeed our problem. Please forgive me. Guizhou said solemnly. It doesn't have to be like this. We all have our own thoughts. Chen Shi waved his hand and said, You and I are not wrong. The ones who are wrong are all Xuandagong. A sly smile appeared on Chen Shi's face. It's okay for you to stay at home all the time. Guizhou could only smile bitterly at Chen Shi's words, and only Chen Shi would be so unprincipled. More than 10 days ago, I was left out in front of the door. Nowadays, the door is full of people. How many businessmen are waiting for me when you say I go out? Chen Shi squeezed the wine glass and said with a smile, I will make a decision on business law, and now only a little bit of benefit is enough to make many people fat. Do you know what my housekeeper has been doing lately? That's not a reason why you don't go to the State Council. Guizhou said helplessly. I don't want to go. Chen Shi said casually. Don't look for me until I finish dealing with this matter, unless something really happens. Just tell Zijing and Xiang to do their own thing. I don't bother to care about the previous things. Seeing that Chen Shi pointed out what happened before, Guizhou helplessly picked up the wine glass and drank it all in one gulp. Who would have thought that Chen Shi could succeed so quickly? And he didn't want to be a peacemaker, but the people of Taishan and Chen Shi were the most compatible with Guizhou. Neither of them is the type of etiquette and interests that cares too much. Drink your bar. I can't go to the brothel with you for the past 2 days. Speaking of the newly opened Manxiang building, I heard that it is good. Have you been there? Chen Shi changed the topic, a topic that both he and Guizhou liked. It's really good. I don't want money. It's really good, and you gave me this one, so that I can spend money in the future. Do you want it? Guizhou had a cheap smile on his face, took out a card made of real pure gold from his sleeve, and took this Guizhou to Manxianglu without paying money at all. I have one too. Chen Shi took out one and shook it in front of Guizhou and said, But I won't be as good as you. But then again, that's the main street. How about South First Street? This land is really cheap. Chen Shi's words made Guizhou extremely resentful, who knew that such a thing as land would rise to this point. The businessman who originally thought that he was just here to do a vote found that Chen Shi was playing for real, and most of the rich people planned to settle down here. So the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th streets were not enough at all, as long as a piece of land was finalized. I have to say that the businessmen who were backed by the family in this era were still very rich. As for the first street, that is, the street of the north-south main road, there are now 3 openings. One is the restaurant of the Mi family, the other is the fur of the Zhen family, and there is a Manxiang building, all of which were opened before Chen Shi changed the business law. Merchants are not stupid. They all know that the north and south streets must be the best boundary. But Chen Shi has drawn 4 streets, and now they are all sold out. What else do you want? Challenging Chen Shi's rule that businessmen can only trade in the designated North District? You can go to the residential area of North 6th Street to buy land and then renovate it. As for the 2 on North 1st Street, and the Manxianglu on South 1st Street you drool. Those three are obviously problematic, okay? Not to mention the Zhen family and the Mi family. The Manxiang building is so eye-catching, if there is no backstage, it would have been relocated long ago, not to mention that it is a street, and it is the only one on South Street. The Zhen family and the Mi family are squatting on North Street, and there is a brothel squatting in the middle of South Street opposite. What are you going to do? I couldn't find the other party's backstage, and the other party was so eye-catching, it was obvious that there was a backstage, so the people who hit the only piece of land on South Street turned off their ideas. Because of this, the brothel was called a prosperous business, and the wealthy merchants and high rollers everywhere didn't mind dealing with the owner of Manxianglu and contacting each other. But unfortunately, Manxianglu didn't have the owner they wanted. That old mother is probably not easy, and she can't tell where the master is during this period of time. Guojiao laughed and said, he has often been in Manxianglu for a period of time, and naturally he also saw the other party's embarrassment. But a cup of flower tea is $100. Looking at the posture of entering the gold that day, no matter how embarrassed the other party is, he will hold on. No one is making trouble. Chen Shi smiled and asked. Manxianglu was indeed a bit eye-catching in that place, but this was also an accident, although this accident was enough to make Lu Su, who understood how much the land was worth, angina, but he didn't have the face to say that he would take it back. Do you think anyone dares? A hint of mockery appeared on Guojiao's face and said, the little guy who is not in the flow will be ignorant enough to make trouble there, but now the wealthy merchants inside are all there, and it is enough to crush them to death with a finger. Who dares to make trouble? But it's really a bit eye-catching. Chen Shi said helplessly, this thing on the main street is too eye-catching. Forget it. Go back and order someone to find that old mother. Let her build a Manxiang building more elegant. Listen to music, dance, act in dramas. If you continue like this, maybe Zijing will come to talk to me, then it will not be good. Chapter 2:12 I'm witty and I'm afraid. Chen Shi is not talking nonsense. According to Lu Su's current angina pectoris, it is estimated that it will not take long to stare at Manxianglu. At that time, Manxianglu will still be in this discordant situation. Chen Shi is not easy to say, after all, although this thing is available everywhere, but there are really not many who dare to drive to the main street openly. This kind of thing itself has its own place. For example, there are several in a certain alley, but now it is indeed a bit crazy to drive so rampantly on the main street, such an unsociable type, probably in the eyes of other brothels, it is already a thorn in the eye, and it is too ruthless to grab business. The last time Manxianglu was smashed because of him and Guan Ping, the change of place he gave was also a compensation, but Lu Su's head was confused at that time and he didn't ask carefully, so he directly gave a hot yam, and now he wants Chen Shi to pretend not to see it, go with the other party or something is indeed a bit not good. After all, people didn't do anything wrong, but staying there now is a bit eye-catching, it has its own problems, and now the other party has no fault, it's just that the place is wrong, so Chen Shi plans to give the other party a chance. As for whether the other party can listen to it, it doesn't matter. Just do what you need to do. Zichuan, I left first. The situation in Shiliang has been a little strange recently, a little far away, a lot of information is a little vague. Han Wenyu and Ma Shouqing don't know what's going on, they have been making trouble. Guojiao stood up staggering on the stone table, a little dizzy. It is said that the war of 100,000 in Shiliang is actually noisy in Guojiao's eyes, and I don't know how Ma Teng and Han Sui will feel when they hear the news. Where is Chang'an? Chen Shi was a little curious. What is the situation? Why are these two guys still fighting? It is said that at this time in history, Han Sui and Ma Teng should not have raised 100,000 troops to fight Li Ji and Guosai under the slogan of the Qinwang, and then were beaten to death by Guosai. The two guys licked each other, licked and licked their feelings, became brothers, and then began to bite again for some other reasons. It's still the same situation before, but Guosai and Li Ji have a little discord because of military power, and at this time, Your Majesty should seize the opportunity to induce the situation. Drive away tigers and swallow wolves. Guojiao's eyes flashed with a glint, and the next moment it dimmed. Chen Shi rolled his eyes. This time was indeed an opportunity to grasp the imperial power. Relying on power to play with a knife to kill may really be able to gather military power, but unfortunately Liu Xie is not such a role. If Liu Xie can do it, the world will not be like this. A flash of disdain on Chen Shi's face made Guojiao arrest in his eyes. He also understood the ridiculousness of his words. Some things seem simple, but you can't do them without enough courage. Okay, let's not talk about this. I need to deal with the situation in Shiliang and Chang'an, Kaomengde and Yuan Highway. I handed it over to Fa Xiaoji to deal with. He has made great progress in recent times. Probably in 3 years at most I will be difficult to suppress him. You find him a good position. Guojiao mentioned Fa Zheng and said with some emotion. After all, Fa Xiao was brought out by him. Don't worry, he is indispensable. Chen Shi smiled and said. By the way, please help me inform the two people. I will remember to inform Zijong and Zhong. Guojiao nodded and said, he also saw that the rules of Feng Gaoxin business are taking shape now, and after this point in time, it will be difficult to get such an opportunity in the future. I think they have made the rules for a while, and after I review them, it's almost enough, and it's time for the street to open. Chen Shi smiled and said that Mizhu may not have thought about this matter before the tax was restored, and even was in a trance after the tax was restored, but Zhong was definitely prepared early. One street. Guozhou's eyelids jumped, and the pace of being ready to leave also stopped, and now there are a lot of businessmen who want to set up a point in Fengao, and the 5 wealthy businessmen in addition to the Wu family are now the real principals of the family are here. Chen Shi said that he is going to develop a street, and the land alone is estimated to exceed the agricultural tax in the first half of the year. Are you interested? Chen Shi turned his head and looked joking. I said I'm not interested. Do you believe it? The land on the second street has risen to now, and the overall is almost catching up with the agricultural tax in the first half of the year, and Zijing shouts heartache every day because it was early. One street, TSK. Guozhou didn't care about Chen Shi's joking look at all. The land was much more powerful than the tax. After Guozhou finished speaking, he frowned as if he had thought of something, but speaking of which, when Zion counted the account books before, he found that the land on the street had already been sold, and the bottom was still when Fengao was not built. It was you who did it. When he said this, Guozhou stared at Chen Shi and asked, although he had guessed that Chen Shi was the only one who could do this, but more than a year ago, he did it when the future was unclear, and he was crazy. I've already shown mercy to my subordinates. I didn't buy South First Street, but I spent money on North First Street. Chen Shi said indifferently. It cost more than 1,000 guan in total, right? Guozhou said with a headache in his eyebrows, and Guozhou muttered, how about we spend 10,000 yuan to buy it back on behalf of the country? You can give more. Chen Shi looked at Guozhou with contempt, and felt embarrassed when he saw Guozhou. If North Street was 10,000 guan now, it would not be the price of cabbage, it would be the price of black cabbage, and the cabbage would be black. Well, I forgot to say it. Chen Shi drank all the liquor in the wine cup and looked at the embarrassed Guozhou with a smile and said, actually, I didn't spend money on those lands. At that time those places were the places where I opened steamed bun shops and white strip exchange points, and when Fengao City was built, I relied on Baiqiao to take those places. Guozhou almost spurted out a mouthful of old blood, feeling that Chen Shi was directly an empty glove white wolf, and he didn't pay a penny at all, thinking about the hundreds of thousands of people who built Fengao at that time, and the steamed bun shop also had income every day, and in order to collect the refugees, the store of the steamed bun shop was very large. God knows how many cents the land was worth at that time. Maybe Chen Shi spent a lot of money to buy the place occupied by the steamed bun shop at a high price as soon as it was calculated as much money. I'm witty, Chen Shi said with a smile on his face. Wit. Guozhou said helplessly, after selling a street, you will surpass the 5 wealthy merchants, and it is still cash. I always feel that you will be strangled to death by Zijing. Guozhou muttered. Don't worry, I will definitely not be strangled to death, and I won't be so ruthless. Just a reminder to you. Long-term benefits. Tilde look at the land that was only more than 1,000 guan at that time, and now it has risen to more than 1 million yuan. How good it is. Tilde. Chen Shi looked at Guozhou with a smile on his face. Guozhou was silent. He naturally understood the meaning contained in his words, and understood why Chen Shi wanted everyone to know that he held the ownership of Yijie at this time, and that he bought it a year and a half ago. This is a warning. Without an extremely long-term vision, then don't think about dealing with Chen Shi, and don't think about fighting against the bill promoted by Chen Shi, because your vision is too short-sighted. Guozhou was obviously a little depressed when he walked out of the Chen family, and Chen Shi's calmness this time put too much pressure on Guozhou, and it was too long-term. Chapter 213. Where did North First Street go? After Guozhou left, Chen Shi looked up to the sky and laughed. He knew that this time he had completely scared these guys, and they would think more about this kind of thing in the future when one person confronted the whole group. After all, Chen Shi was a little too demonic now, and every step of the idle chess would be calculated in the end. Jenna, where are the people? Chen Shi shouted to the inner courtyard. It's time to pull Liu Bei out of the top tank. A lot of small money. He has no intention of monopolizing it. What's the matter, husband? Fan Jian took a while to react and walked out swayingly. Take out the smallest box under the bed for me. Chen Shi said to Fan Jian casually, saying that if you bring Fan Jian with you, it seems to be very well behaved after a long time, although it will be a little clingy after a long time, especially when Chen Shi is at home. It is now a little sticky. Okay. Tilde ran back in a flurry. Chen Shi was too lazy to restrain her. She could draw, she could read, she liked to read, and she was good at embroidering, so what else could she ask for? Isn't it just that I've been a little too excited recently? And Chen Shi doesn't maintain the image of everyone's lady very much. Soon Fan Jian ran over with a small wooden box, placed it in front of Chen Shi, and then sat beside him, staring at Chen Shi with a hopeful face, hoping to open it. Want to see it? Chen Shi said with a smile. Fan Jian nodded. Sure enough, As long as Chen Shi did not ask for it and did not restrain her temperament, she would soon miss the lady with everyone, and her temperament was a lot wilder, so it was natural to say that this was natural. Don't give it, Chen Shi said with a smile, without waiting for Fan Jian to pout. Chen Shi opened the box. Okay, show me. This is the title deed. Fill in the name is ours. You go and call Lana over and let her choose one. The rest is mine? Fan Jian's eyes sparkled. What are you kidding? You can only choose one. Chen Shi knocked on Fan Jian's head. Fan Jian shrank his head like a cat, and ran away angrily. This stack is all the title deeds of North Street, including the 2 places where the Mi family and the Zhen family are squatting now. The land deeds are all here, which means that it is actually illegal for those 2 families to occupy the land now, as long as Chen Shi is willing to teach them to be human beings in minutes. But Chen Shi was too lazy to make it difficult for them. Soon Fan Jian dragged Chen Lan, who was only wearing a white gauze pajamas, and ran over, saying that now the Chen family has completely declined yin and yang, and there are 2 adult males, and it is estimated that Chen Shi is the only one who can barely be regarded as vigorous. Lana, you're sleeping again. Chen Shi looked at Chen Lan speechlessly. Since he transferred Chen Lan from a slave to a good family girl, and then from a good family girl to a concubine of the Chen family, Chen Lan's daily thing is to sleep and sleep, most of the time during the day. As long as he is woken up, it looks like he hasn't slept enough at any time, but he is in excellent spirits at night, and the traditional and simple are completely reversed. Chen Lan yawned, and some tears overflowed from the corners of her eyes. I've seen my husband Tilda. No, hurry up and choose one. I also went to Zhuangdegang, speed, I saw that there was no blank place, you just choose and fill in your name. Chen Shi took out a stack of title deeds and handed them to Chen Lan and Fan Jian at will. As 2 otaku girls who basically don't go shopping, they don't know what these title deeds are at all, and the traditional and simple are carefully chosen. Chen Lan groggily took a sheet and wrote Chen Shi's name on it, handed it to Chen Shi and it was over. Chen Shi looked helplessly at the title deed handed to him by Chen Lan, glanced at the simple title deed. Fortunately, he wrote his name very obediently. If it was the same as Chen Lan, then Liu Xuanda would need to have another real estate of about 100,000 yuan. So Chen Shi helplessly took a pen from Chen Lan and roughly scanned the stack of land deeds, and took out a medium shop from it to sign Chen Lan's name. After doing this, Chen Shi, who was infected by Chen Lan's sleepy bugs, yawned and folded the title deed, stuffed it into Chen Lan's arms, pinched it with his hand, and puffed it up a little. Looking at the shop in Fan Jian's hand again, Chen Shi took it and folded it, and handed it to Fan Jian. You take it, this is a gift prepared for you too, and if you don't have money in the future, go to this shop to ask for it, you must have money. After doing this, Chen Shi sent Chen Lan to continue to rest, running around in her pajamas, and catching a cold sooner or later. Jenna, you took care of the singers and maids in the family, all of them were taken away by Chen Lan, and they looked lazy every day, although I didn't think about what they wanted. Why didn't they even have anyone to pour tea and water? Chen Shi put away the stack of land deeds, knocked on the head of the traditional and simple and said, if the singer in the family is not interested in Chen Shi will not believe it, to say a more shameless word. Now Chen Shi can be regarded as one of the representatives of today's excellent husbands, young, good-looking, strong enough, or real power card. Chen Shi now said that he wanted to serve as a concubine. From the east of Fengao City to the west of Fengao City, there is absolutely no problem. But now there is no maid in the family to add tea and pour water, to say that this is not a simple order. Chen Shi didn't have much idea about pushing the maid, but it was a complete feeling to have a maid spinning around next to her and drinking tea alone there. You must know that although the Chen family lacks men, there is definitely no shortage of maids, and there is no shortage of maids from 12 to 22 years old, right? Fan Jian Yang said insincerely. I'll leave first. You stay at home obediently and don't run around. Chen Shi began to make mistakes again, saying that so far, as long as Chen Shi is not careful, he has treated traditional and simple as a little girl, and has not corrected his position at all. After Chen Shi left, Fan Jian pouted and looked down at his chest, and glanced at the backyard indignantly. Can you grow up by sleeping? Chen Shi didn't think about the traditional and simple thinking logic at all. He needed to go to Liu Bei now, and some things needed to be explained to Liu Bei. The Lord is in the study. Shu Chu howled loudly. Chen Shi dug out his ears and glared at Shu Chu. Do you want me to wait here for a few minutes and shout so loudly? Don't think I don't know that Mrs. Zhong is here, really. Shu Chu looked at Chen Shi a little embarrassed, then scratched his head and stood aside to continue to be a pillar. Not long after Chen Shi finished speaking, Liu Bei opened the study. Zichuan, what is going on here? But it is related to Qingju business? Some relationship, but not much. Chen Shi clamped the box and walked in, and sure enough, Zhong was wearing a turquoise embroidered brocade and sat at the tea table with a tea tray and 3 or 5 kinds of snacks. Yo, madam is here too. Chen Shi said with some surprise on his face, but the smile in his eyes couldn't be hidden. Why should Sichuan be like this? Zhong glanced at Chen Shi, and then said calmly, without the slightest panic, congratulations to Sichuan first. The new law is really amazing, not to mention anything else, just talking about buying and selling shops, this item of Fengao income is probably less than half a year's tax in a state. Sichuan, sit casually, no need to be formal. Liu Bei gave Chen Shi a cup and said with a smile, I was still talking to my wife about you just now. Probably the lady wants the storefront on North First Street, or the top businessmen now want to know where North First Street is. Seeing Zhong get up and pour himself a cup of tea, Chen Shi smiled, took a sip, and stared up at Zhong and asked. Chapter 214 Just by doing it, everything is different. Zhong nodded and admitted Chen Shi's statement. When other businessmen were still discussing whether Liu Xuanda's side wanted to sit on the ground and raise the price, Zhong had already obtained an amazing piece of information from Fengao strategists. That is, North First Street was not in the official hands at all. Not in the hands of the officials, Zhong's first reaction was Chen Shi. Compared to other people who need to use their brains, Zhong trusted his intuition more. Since learning of Chen Shi's almost demonic performance, Zhong leaned on Chen Shi for things that he couldn't figure out. Just bring it in. It's here. Chen Shi smiled and pointed to the wooden box and said, the storefronts on North First Street are basically here, and when Fengao was first built, it was already accepted. Do you remember what Zhuangdegang said at the beginning? Liu Bei was surprised to remember his casual words, so he hit a ha-ha to cover up the past, glanced at Chen Shi. If he could remember what he said a year and a half ago when Fengao was not yet built, it would be strange, and motioned for Chen Shi to play at will. Anyway, Liu Bei believed that Chen Shi would not cheat him. Zhong's beautiful eyes flashed. This box of title deeds was no less than an entire Zhen family property, and sure enough, it was in Chen Shi's hands. Since Sichuan took it out and thought about it, he also planned to sell these stores. In this case, it would be better for me to let my Zhen family choose one or two first. You must know that our Zhen family occupies the place now but has no title deed, in case it will be bad if it is favored by others later. Chen Shi rolled her eyes. Women sometimes have a big advantage. If this is placed on Mi Zhu, she will definitely not be able to say that she should choose one or two first. After all, this kind of thing itself does not conform to the rules. But there is no way to put it on Zhong. Women are born privileged and cheating. Challenging the rules, this should be considered nature. Madam, wait a little longer. After all, these title deeds are still ownerless. I waited for this day after I got it done earlier, and Xuandagong invited. Chen Shi smiled and pushed the wooden box in front of Liu Bei, which he finally intercepted when he was building Feng Jiao while brushing Liu Bei's benevolence and virtue under the slogan of Liu Bei, while saving money to occupy the land. Although it is not signed, it can be regarded as the owner's property and cannot be taken advantage of. Liu Bei smiled and opened the wooden box. The stack of slightly yellowed and rough grass paper appeared. These papers were made by Chen Shi in the earliest times, and the technology is much better now. Looking at the title deeds, Liu Bei and Fan Jian's otaku are completely different things. Although Liu Bei's mind was not on politics, but he still knew a few places where the land had soared recently, although he knew what was in this box from Chen Shi's previous words. But when he saw it with his own eyes, he was still very shocked. Chen Shi really planned it so early. Liu Bei pinched a title deed, sighing in his heart. As expected of Sichuan, his vision is always shocking, and everything was planned so early. No wonder I didn't see him once because of the panic of government affairs. Looking at the blanks on the title deed, Liu Bei put down the title deed in his hand. He knew very well that as long as Chen Shi took it out, it meant that it would not be taken back, and these things were simply prepared for him by Chen Shi. Sichuan, I left these things, but you still need to deal with the rest of the things. Business, it is estimated that no one is better than you, or to put it another way, no one is better than you in government affairs. Liu Bei sighed and put the title deed back, and said solemnly, although it feels a bit excessive, I am still happy to accept it. Chen Shi said with a smile on his face, not at all as cold as before. Sometimes he felt that Liu Bei, who didn't care about anything, was a good person. Zhong turned his head silently. He also saw what was going on with the title deed in Liu Bei's hand, but he didn't fill in the name at all, and Chen Shi had already thought about how to pay hard work and annual bonuses to those strategists under Liu Bei's rule at that time. If Chen Shi eats North Street alone, he will definitely be hostile, and it is estimated that it will not be much better if it is replaced by Liu Bei. After all, this eating appearance is indeed a bit ugly. In the name of Liu Bei's earlier order for Chen Shi to buy it and prepare it as a reward for the future, they were instantly happy. As for Liu Bei, he regarded it as a hard work, labor fee, and annual bonus. In short, no matter what it was, as long as it was sent, it was a large reward, and Liu Bei became closer to his subordinates in an instant. This is not a reward distributed by the national government, but Liu Bei is really taking it out of his small treasury, and backing the country and generous to others are completely different things, at least sincere enough. As for how this money came from, anyway, it is not a trick to abduct and steal, just use it legally. In short, this money Liu Bei has instantly become the only way to consolidate people's hearts. Zhong also understood this matter, so he stopped speaking. At least you have to let Liu Bei finish the favor. Chen Shi and Liu Bei can now show you this kind of thing so calmly. They don't treat you as an outsider, and when the time comes, after sending the title deed as a reward to those civil servants and fierce generals, as long as the other party's brain is still normal, they will definitely not look for a buyer on their own. Even if you can't pull your face to find Chen Shi because of the previous events, but it is human nature to follow the crowd, and the military generals will definitely hand over their land deeds to Chen Shi to solve when the time comes, and with the military generals taking the lead, these things will definitely still fall into Chen Shi's hands, which is equivalent to saying that after turning a circle, the final things will still be left to Chen Shi to solve, but everyone has no resentment. As for the matter of dividing money, Zhong Shi knew very well that Chen Shi definitely didn't care much. Chen Shi's methods were too much, and he didn't need to care at all. And Liu Bei, this money is directly blown by the wind, and besides, it is important to have the loyalty of good ministers and fierce generals in the money. So it's not a problem for these two people. As expected of Chen Zichuan, who took precautions, he calculated every step of the plan early, and Xuandegang didn't need to worry about these things at all. Zhong sighed and said, in this current situation where the monarch and his ministers know each other, it doesn't matter how much fame Zhu Shou brushes, and Liu Bei doesn't eat this set at all. Ha ha ha, I have Zichuan is a blessing from heaven, and it is proof that the Han family is not declining. Liu Bei was very proud. He was still very proud of picking up a top strategist on the road. At that time, who would have thought that Chen Shi, who was eating behind the princes, had such great ability, and Liu Xuande had a discerning eye to discover Chen Shi. Chen Shi turned his head not very accustomedly. He always felt that Liu Bei was a little too excited every time he mentioned him in front of others, sometimes in the absence of others. Liu Bei mentioned that he did not reprimand Chen Shi for spying on the barracks at the beginning, but took Chen Shi all the way. There was a feeling that destiny was just like this. Chapter 215 Accelerated Education and Spending Money to Buy People's Hearts. Liu Bei's land deed was too bold. Each old man with him was divided into one, to say the least. Each one was worth 30,000 to 50,000 yuan, and in an instant, all people had the motivation to struggle. As for those newcomers, Liu Bei had secretly said that he had plenty of money after waiting for 2 days, and he didn't mind the money, food, and beauties. After issuing the land deed money and food, Liu Bei felt that the private treasury was really easy to use, if it was placed in the past, even if the tens and billions of money were all earned by Liu Bei. But if you dare to spend it so lavishly, your subordinates will scold you even if you get the benefits. Now, brother spends his own. What do you think? I want to help whoever I want. The treasury doesn't give money. The big deal is that I pay for myself. You group of censors bite me? Come on, fight a pain. Who is afraid of whom? Liu Bei spent the money blown by the wind very happily. As for what the censors were afraid of, now the treasury and the private treasury are separated, and at that time, Liu Xuande didn't take a copper plate from the treasury, and the house was built with my own money. What do you want to say at this time? Tell me, I'll listen. In short, with money, with confidence, Liu Bei, who is a pure master, is now very happy, and in recent days, he has been very refreshed to pay money, and he used to think about whether it would have any impact on the official finances, and now that there is a problem with the official finances, this group of officials should all dismount, and he has a hairy relationship. The country is the state, his own is his own. His own money is all in his pocket, and he will earn it after spending it. After throwing out more than $1 billion, Liu Bei gave birth to a feeling that money is just like this. Seeing Liu Bei know the exact value of each title deed, he was a little distressed from the beginning. Then he posted more than a dozen and became numb, and then it didn't matter directly, and Chen Shi understood that his education seemed to be effective. You must know that even if this $10 billion are blown by the wind. But after all, this is already Liu Bei's property. No matter how easy it is to get it, there is also a feeling of one's own, looking at 2 or 3 billion yuan all at once, or Liu Bei himself threw it out. The previous concept of money is not shocked as a mess. Zichuan, it's no problem for the Lord to spend money like this. Li Yu casually handed over his land deed for a shop worth almost 120,000 yuan to Chen Shi. Then mentioned that Liu Bei's situation was a little less optimistic recently, and Chen Shi's method was completely a crash course, although the effect was good. But the cost is a bit high. Do you want to say that it is easy to go from frugality to luxury, and it is difficult to go from luxury to frugality? Chen Shi turned his head and asked, it's nothing. The characters cultivated in this way are a little more extravagant at most. The benefits are, I don't believe that the prosperity of the world can fascinate Shen Digong's eyes. To be honest, as long as Shen Digong himself is not fascinated by prosperity like Dong Zhongying and loses his nature, the foundation will only get better and better, and the foundation can only become more and more solid. What I am most afraid of is that Shen Digong himself has lost his nature. Li Yu was silent, thinking about what he had done in the first place. There was a very small thing that completely led to the collapse of the entire huge Dongzhuo force because he did not notice it. If there is a regret medicine, Li Yu feels that he will give Dongzhuo a try regardless of the cost. At least don't be ashamed to be fascinated by the prosperity and beauty of Luoyang, and finally completely degenerate. It's just that Xuan Gong has been too generous recently. Li Yu said helplessly. He recognized Chen Shi's accelerated education policy. At least Liu Bei's hobby for gold, silver, and jewelry was greatly reduced. Don't worry, Xuandegang at least has a scale, just compare it. Chen Shi took out the year-end reward that Liu Bei gave him and took out Li Yu's hard work. One was estimated at 250,000 yuan, and the other was estimated at 120,000 yuan. Look, it's not confused yet, spend it. In 2 days I will exchange the land deed for cash. Xuandegang can't do this kind of thing even if he is generous. Let nature take its course, it's nothing. Li Yu glanced at the title deed in Chen Shi's hand, which could be regarded as knowing it in his heart, nodded and didn't say anything more. As for all of it for money, Chen Shi felt that this was not the right choice. Copper coins in troubled times may not be hard currency. Take advantage of this year's good situation. Quickly exchange billions of dollars of grain for Liu Bei to deposit. Who let it be a seller's market now. We sell land, stipulate what to buy. You can buy if you like to buy. If you don't like to buy, you don't see how many people are waiting behind, don't waste time. Although this plague seems to have been suppressed by Huatuo and did not spread, it also died 1 million people, and it is perverted to think about it. So Chen Shi is now collecting official and private seals, all kinds of medicinal materials. How many medicinal materials? Chen Shi does not have an accurate calculation of how many medicinal materials are needed by millions of people, so collect it. As for the doctor, Chen Shi is now catching Huatuo all over the map, but it is obvious that he has not found it. God knows where he is. As for money, Chen Shi is not worried at all. Embezzling Liu Bei's private property has become Chen Shi's habit. After all, Chen Shi has been making money for Liu Bei. As for how to earn and what to earn, Liu Bei doesn't know at all, don't know at all. Embezzled 90% of the money handed over by the Zhen family store to buy medicinal materials all over the map. Ginseng is 10 cents a pound, no matter how big or small. You can think of how much medicinal materials Chen Shi has collected. As for the remaining 10%, Chen Shi said that he was really operating for Liu Bei. As for how to operate, Jenna, what do you want to buy? Oh, this, okay, Lana, do you want it? This is the real situation. However, in view of Liu Bei's trust in Chen Shi, and Chen Shi's things are often incomprehensible, and Chen Shi likes to catch big fish with long lines, empty gloves, and white wolves or something. Liu Bei never thought that Chen Shi would embezzle this kind of thing at all, saying that Liu Bei would forget about this matter after a long time. Everyone was happy, everyone was happy. Because of this, Chen Shi has no pressure to spend Liu Bei's money recently. Anyway, Liu Bei is very likely to forget, and Chen Shi estimates that Liu Bei will also need a year after spending this wave of money, and after a year, Chen Shi feels that he may not be able to do any good business at that time. For example, catching who people to engage in infrastructure construction or something, making not much money. But the victory is to be able to brush the people's prestige. Speaking of the popularity of the people, Chen Shi seems to think of something. It seems that he can brush Liu Bei's reputation recently, spend money to buy prestige, buy people's hearts and so on. This is a rare opportunity, and it must be seized. Thinking about it this way, Chen Shi found that he could explain Liu Bei's money he spent. Isn't the best thing Feng Yuan did in the 3 caves of the Cunning Rabbit back then to buy the people's hearts? Money can buy the hearts of the people, which is simply good for the monarch. To be continued. P.S. I don't know what to write in the recent chapter testimonials. Chapter 216 Idle chess everywhere. Random drops. Chen Shi looked at the stack of title deeds in his hand, turned around, and sure enough, he returned to his hand to deal with it. How to say? This group of people are quite thick-skinned, and they are also very self-aware, and they all know who will run this matter to bring them the greatest profit. This article is written by Starting. Zizhong, let's go to see the scene. Chen Shi threw a stack of land deeds in his hand, and Mi Zhu, who listened to the clattering sound, was a little worried that these grass papers would be broken. These were all money. Speaking of which, it was Mi Zhu who came over to admit his mistake as soon as the taxes skyrocketed. Although Mi Zhu was obviously a little in a trance at that time, but he admitted his mistake without saying a word, and he didn't care about the face at all. Chen Shi's tax method is really good for the current Mi Zhu. Not only Liu Bei Zhuang, he himself is rich, and the future of the official position in the future will be brighter, and the position of the boss in the Chamber of Commerce will be more stable, even if he basically does not appear much. But after this incident, there are fewer and fewer people who sit under Mi Zhu's buttocks. When Chen Shi stepped out, all the people waiting for the news were ready. Don't underestimate the energy of these wealthy businessmen. In the case of Chen Shi not deliberately blocking the news, these people knew that North First Street was actually going to be sold. As for where to sell and how to sell it, Chen Shi didn't even issue an invitation. so these businessmen squatting in Fengao couldn't pay attention to it, and Chen Shi's mindset of not playing cards according to common sense had been recognized by everyone.
Zizhong, you say it.
What effect would it have if I set up a stall here to sell the title deed? Chen Shi looked at the group of sneaking thieves and asked Mi Zhu with a smile. Mi Zhu didn't speak, he had already learned very smartly. If you don't express any opinions on Chen Shi will not do things according to common sense. Maybe Mi Zhu will get out of the carriage and set up a stall as soon as he speaks. Forget it, don't joke, turn to Mang Xianglu. Chen Shi turned his head to the coachman and ordered, then the carriage turned around on the spot and marched towards Mang Xianglu.
Zichuan.
This is not good. If it is sold in Mang Xianglu, where will we put Mrs. Zhong and Mrs. Gan?
This time Mi Zhu spoke.
Without speaking, Chen Shizhen pulled the carriage there. Don't worry, Mang Xianglu has been packed, and that woman is still very interesting. Chen Shi smiled and said, giving the other party a notice the day before yesterday. Yesterday it was changed from top to bottom. The speed was so fast that Chen Shi felt a little embarrassed. But it used to be a brothel. Mi Zhu said with a wry smile. Chen Shi really didn't play cards according to common sense. What are you afraid of? North Street used to be a wasteland, really. Go, you don't say it, I don't say it. Which of those merchants dares to speak? Do you think Zhong will care that it is a brothel? And Mrs. Gan might know?
Chen Shi said nonchalantly.
Whoever dares to say it will be out. Mi Zhu smiled bitterly. He was sure that the Manxiang building, which was now converted into a tea house, definitely had Chen Shi's calculations. He understood that Chen Shi's favorite thing to do was to arrange idle chess. As for when idle chess would be used, except for Chen Shi himself, God knows. That's not what normal people do at all, okay? Forget it, let me tell you the truth. The old mother of that brothel is a knowledgeable person. I didn't tell you before, I want to brush up some cultural atmosphere for Fengao, and arrest the Yuzhou scholars to prepare for this, and this woman is so interesting, I don't mind giving her a chance. Chen Shi smiled and said, can he say that the woman moved too fast and was too obedient, making it difficult for him to open his mouth to move people away? It gave a hint that people changed people from top to bottom overnight, inside and out.
This.
Mi Zhu couldn't say anything now, so he could only nod indifferently. As for whether he understood or not, that would be the matter. The old mother of Mang Xianglu was a little helpless, too interesting, too decisive, without any hesitation. Because of this, Chen Shi also planned to protect the other party, ruin other people's business, and could not cut off other people's lives. As for what to do in the future, Chen Shi has already thought about it. Anyway, this kind of poor spiritual life now, whether it is to let her find someone to tell a story, or let her find someone to act, it is very promising. It is said that Chen Shi is more inclined to act. After all, there are too many women in the fragrant building, and you can make up a few teams at will. Maybe there will be 1 or 2 famous roles in the future, which is much better than the previous business, and the takeaway can also brush the cultural atmosphere. As for if people look at each other in the right eyes, there is nothing to say about self-recommending pillows, and sure enough, Mang Xianglu still needs to open points. As for what someone will force in the future, Chen Shi thinks, there is such a thing in any era, but doing this kind of thing also has to go through the brain. Presumably no one in Fengao City dares to mess around there. Chen Shi realized that even if Cao Mengde came to play hooligans, he could calm the field. Chen Shi's entry into Mang Xianglu was quickly put on the table of major businessmen, just like Zhong also put such information in front of Zhong now.
Sister, come with me then.
Zhong took out a paper invitation from the side and handed it to Gan. As a privileged person, she had already taken the invitation early. As for the location above, it was not filled in. It is estimated that Chen Shi had not thought about it at that time. Gan has become a lot more atmospheric recently, at least not as afraid of Zhong as before, took the invitation with a smile, and then filled Zhong with tea. Sister will remember to call me then. After all, without my husband's consent, I can't go out of the house. Zhong smiled. After all, Gan was born in a small family, and some things were not done well, although now he gradually had confidence. In fact, the difference was still a little too far. Since the invitation could fall into her hands, it already showed that Liu Bei agreed. As long as he went to ask for instructions, Liu Bei would naturally get an answer, and let Zhong take her out. In the eyes of a big family, it was not etiquette. Alas, silly sister. Fortunately, Liu Xuande is also a benevolent person, from a humble background, and does not pay attention to these etiquette. You can be regarded as escaping a catastrophe, but as Liu Xuande's status continues to rise, can you still allow it?
Maybe Liu Xuande can allow it. And will his men allow it?
Zhong looked at Gan, who was drinking tea carefully there, and sighed.
Will Chen Zichuan leave such a loophole?
Why did the rules formulated by the two parties add Gan's family? I didn't find any characteristics of her, except for the heart that can be regarded as virtuous and virtuous. There are no other characteristics. Why add her? Zhong stared at Gan with some curiosity. For Chen Shi, That guy would take care of a girl who was basically equal to a vase? Boredom? Zhong was the first to disbelieve it. Chen Shi had turned into a demon here, and no matter how idle she was, she would never forget to calculate. How could she do unnecessary things? Chapter 217 Yu Ju is in an emergency. No matter what Mang Xianglu did before, but now that Chen Shi is there to make a transaction, then everyone else needs to go whether they want to or not. TSK, this art is really good. Chen Shi put a bundle of invitations on the table and pulled one out of it. Mi Zhu laughed twice. His sister is still very talented in calligraphy and painting. At least this invitation does look beautiful. Zizhong has handed these over to you. You can watch the distribution. You can send it to whoever you want. Anyway, just dispose of this stack of land deeds when the time comes. Chen Shi yawned and said, no one has come to disturb Chen Shi recently, and because of this, Chen Shi has become more free and loose. Mi Zhu knew very well that Chen Shi couldn't tell which side those businessmen belonged to, let alone who should be sent to, and handing things over to professional people has always been what Chen Shi is best at. Mi Zhu's movements were very fast. All the invitations before noon were sent to everyone with qualifications. None of them were missed. The rest was to wait for the group of people to come in Mang Xianglu. If someone didn't read the invitation, if you were invited to come after 1 to 3 days, then if you missed it, you would miss it. Chen Shi would not make up for it once. Don't read the invitation, you look down on us. Chen Shi prepared all the title deeds, prepared to sell things in the afternoon, and arranged the order early to mix up a little more money. Just as Chen Shi was arranging, a guard broke in. Military Division, Mr. Jiao asked you to go to the government office to discuss matters? Chen Shi, who was originally sorting out the title deed in his hand, couldn't help but pause, raised his head and glanced at the guard. It was Guo Jiao's chief of guard, Wan Yuliang. Did something happen? Chen Shi put down the stack of title deeds and asked calmly. Jiao Wanhe was able to order Wan Yuliang to come and inform him, which was enough to show that the new intelligence had happened again. Chen Shi frowned and thought, but no matter what he thought. Since Jiao ordered someone to call him, then these things in his hand need to be put aside. After all, to this extent, the land can be dealt with by buying and selling Mi Zhu. Zizhong, it seems that I can't stay here and preside over it in person. The rest will be left to you. Remember that Xuandegang's land can only be rented and not sold, and the land issued to you can only be bought if you have enough status. Chen Shi stuffed a stack of land deeds into Mi Zhu's hand. After all, he had already nailed the general direction, and Mi Zhu would do at most a question of how much money and food. Zizhong, you need to remember that money needs to be 10. The payment for grain, horses, cattle, and sheep only requires 90% of the original price, 95% of medicinal materials, and the same goes for raw materials such as raw silk mulberry and hemp. Anyway, the physical product can be cheaper, you can just look at it, but don't get to the bottom. At that time, the goods will be stored in the warehouse in the West District according to classification, and the money will be transported back to each family. Chen Shi hurriedly informed Mi Zhu of these things, which were related to his plans for next year. Hey! Although Mi Zhu didn't quite understand why Chen Shi didn't discount the price on the spot, but he had to give the raw materials a higher price, he didn't say much. Chen Shi could also guess one or two about Mi Zhu's puzzled expression, but he did not give an explanation. After all, Mi Zhu has not thought about the problem of reserve funds now. If it could be bartered, many merchants would have a step up and made a lot of bold moves. Not every family is like the Zhen family, and they always have 2 billion yuan of strategic funds. More importantly, in Chen Shi's view, the real copperplate is not as important as the materials. Instead of changing hands at that time, it is better to make reserves now, and make strategic reserves at one time when there are the most businessmen. Okay, the rest is up to you. If you mess up and don't get the money, I don't think Zijing and the others will mind talking to you. Chen Shi looked at Mi Zhu, who was a little embarrassed by what he said, and waved his hand. I'll leave first, and the business rules and the Chamber of Commerce will be left to you to coordinate with them. In short, now this group of people are staring at Chen Shi now, but it's a pity that until the time on the invitation comes, Chen Shi didn't see the government office. That is to say, this matter was not Chen Shi's fault. That's the situation. After Jiao finished reading the latest issue of Yuju and Jizhou Intelligence, Chen Shi was not even in the mood to ridicule Lu Su and others. Although I knew for a long time that Gongsun Boiguei would be defeated, should I be so thorough? Chen Shi stretched out his hand to cover his eyes and said with a wry smile, this defeat is too sharp. Come on, you don't need to save the scene. Yuan Benchu won too neatly. Gongsun Boiguei now has no room for turning around unless he turns back to Yuju to reorganize his troops and fight again, and the White Horse righteousness is all over, which is too useless. The most important thing is whether you can go back or not is still a question. Liu Yi said with a wry smile. Although the whole of Qingju knows that Yu Gongsun Zon will be defeated, but do you want to lose so neatly? 10,000 white horses are righteous, first blocked by the halberd, and then Yang Liang Wenqiu led the heavy cavalry to cut the center. Gongsun Zon commanded the wrong infantry to block the back road, and finally was directly destroyed by Zhu Yi with the first death. Chen Shi looked at the intelligence of the first battle of the boundary bridge and really didn't know what to say. The infantry of Gongsun Buegui in the first battle of the boundary bridge did not lose much, but the most elite white horse righteousness never survived one. Plus that night Zhu Yi led the death soldiers to rush to the camp with a serious injury, and directly broke the camp against Gongsun Buegui's arrow rain, and directly killed Gongsun Buegui's infantry and the only remaining white horse righteousness, and then held his breath and directly chased nearly 100 miles, beating Gongsun Buegui with no chance to reorganize the troops at all, and just chased them to the collapse. Seeing this, Chen Shi wanted to say, Zhu Yi, you want to be super god. Half of the 3,000 first death soldiers pounced, but all the white horse righteous followers were destroyed, and Gongsun Zon was abolished. You're so ferocious and took the wrong medicine. In fact, not only Chen Shi felt perverted, Yuan Shao himself felt like a dream. As for Yuan Shao's famous generals such as Ma Yang, Zhao Tuch, Zhu Ang, Zhu Ling and other famous generals were completely frightened and stupid. Some time ago he ridiculed this kind of pervert. Hurry up and prepare a gift to apologize. Gongsun Zon was beaten to no one before he reached the place where Sun Chen calculated, so Qian Feng and Sun Chen did not follow the previous estimate, but directly sent troops from the Lufan area of Bingju and slashed to Yuzhou mainland with a knife, and at the same time, Zhu Shou of Bahai also defended Zhuojuan, and Guangyang's troops pressed on Yuzhou. Chapter 218. The number of days seems to be still on our side. After reading the information and listening to Joshu's explanation, Chen Shi completely had no hope for Gongsun Zon. This can't be killed at all. Okay, Qian Feng Sun Chen directly blocked the way back, and then Yuan Shao personally went into battle to chase and kill. Zhu Yi directly took his own life as an imprisonment. Yang Liang Wenqiu was injured and knocked Tai Shutsi to the ground. Isn't this the rhythm of killing Gongsun Zon? This situation is completely different from Gongsun Zon's defeat and retreat to the boundary bridge in history. Originally Gongsun Zon had at least a backhand after the defeat of the boundary bridge in history. 10,000 white horses and righteous people still had at least more than 2,000 left. The infantry basically had no losses, and still maintained the strength to fight again, and Yuan Shao's side, Zhu Yi's halberds were basically destroyed, and the first to die basically accounted for 80%. But, even so, it was still a brilliant victory for Yuan Shao. Looking at this time, let's first say that in the daytime battle, the white horse righteous army was directly destroyed, the handsome flag was cut down, and half of the halberds who blocked the frontal battle actually survived, and the casualties of the first death soldiers were only 1/3. If the Battle of Jieqiao in history was a brilliant victory for Yuan Shao, then this battle was almost equivalent to the change of hands in the north of World War I. Of course, these have been prepared for Chen Shi. Although the defeat is a little too bizarre, Chen Shi can still accept it, but Zhu Yi's current situation is a little unacceptable to Chen Shi. Zhu Yi seemed to be taken away by Yuan Shao, and Chen Shi frowned a little when he looked at this information, compared to those who did not prove their ability in history with wars. Zhu Yi has really proven his ability. You must know that the main force of Yuan Shao in history to overthrow Gongsun Zon is Zhu Yi. However, Zhu Yi was arrogant, and was cleaned up by Yuan Shao after beating Gongsun Zon. The two major arms under his command were also distributed to Zhong Zhuo and Chun Yuqiong, and then they were basically taken away. As a result, it is obvious that Zhu Yi was taken by Yuan Shao, rushed to the enemy camp with injuries, and attacked and destroyed Gongsun. Zhu Yi's character could not do it at all, unless Zhu Yi regarded Yuan Shao as his own life, just like Yang Liang and Wenqiu, and his life and death did not matter. Those who block Yuan Shao's path to hegemony must die, and only Zhu Yi, who holds that kind of idea and has a heart higher than the sky, will not be afraid of life and death. The dead Zhu Yi was accepted by others, the first dead soldiers, and the halberds and Zhu Yi led were completely different things, and they were overturned head-on with a smaller number than the number of white horse righteous servants. Regardless of whether there is a terrain or not, at least it shows that the combat effectiveness of these two arms is not a joke. We should discuss how to solve it now. Chen Shi put down the information and looked at Guo and asked, "We absolutely cannot send troops on the mainland now. We have not stopped at all this year, and if we continue to fight, our soldiers will definitely lose their fighting spirit. Not to mention this kind of war of aggression that doesn't make much sense. I suggest that we provide materials for others to save Gongsun Buegui." Guo immediately vetoed the idea of sending troops from the mainland. Even if he won consecutive battles, he could not stop for a year. Black Mountain Army, White Wave Yellow Turbans, Southern Xiongnu. Joshu spat out a few words and continued to close his eyes to recuperate. For these forces, once Yuan Shao defeated Gongsun Zon and stabilized, they would all be under Yuan Shao's army. I heard that Han Fu recently died in the toilet. A sneer appeared on Liu Yi's face. I don't want Yuan Benchu to be so cool. Chen Shi glanced at Liu Yi casually. This guy is not a good thing, although Han Fu's death is relatively strange. But a smart person knows that Yuan Benchu will not kill Han Fu at this time. This guy said this is just a big banner for some ambitious factions in Jizhou. As for the ambitious faction not dying has little to do with Liu Yi, this guy is just to disrupt the rear of Jizhou. I heard that Lu Fengxian's recent situation is not good, and Yuan Highway is a little awkward. I heard that Lu Fengxian has a reputation in Bingju. How about we support Lu Fengxian to return to Bingju? Lu Su also gave a note. It would be strange if Lu Bu didn't bite Yuan Shao when he arrived in Bingju. Get rid of that southern Xiongnu, just the Black Mountain Army, and by Bo, find someone to spread some rumors. Zhang, the matter you said will be left to you to operate. As for Lu Fengxian, the idea of returning to Bingju is really hard to say. Zijing can try it. Chen Shi eliminated the southern Xiongnu mentioned by Jioshu, and all other ideas were approved, but some of them were far away and could not quench their thirst. Xingba is still in the area of the mouth of the Yellow River. In desperation, Chen Shi had no choice but to use Gan Ning. According to that guy's heart, there were 9 achievements squatting there, and now only the Navy could catch up with the rescue. Just as Chen Shi was asking Jioshu about Gan Ning's information, a herald rushed in. Report. The latest information came from Jizhou. Jioshu took the information with an indifferent expression and read it quickly. Sichuan doesn't need to look for it. Xingba is already in Handan. Handan? Chen Shi was stunned for a moment, and instantly understood what place it was. Isn't it right next to the boundary bridge? This guy copied Yuan Shao's back road? Yes, he has copied Yuan Shao's back road. No one thought that Xingba would appear there. He only has 300 lone troops, and the grain stored in Handan was burned by him. I think he should now go down the Zhong River to rescue Gongsun Buigui. If nothing else, Gongsun Buigui should have saved his life. When Jioshu said this, he had a feeling that Gan Ning was really bold enough. It seems that the days are still on our side. The grain and grass in the south of Yuju have long been dimmed by Gongsun Buigui. Even if Yuan Benchu wants to eat the enemy, there is no food in Yuju, and now the grain and grass in Handan have been burned by Xingba. Yuan Benchu couldn't hold on for long, which is really good news. Xingba did a good job. Chen Shi laughed after hearing this. The timing was really good, and the card was really wonderful. As for Gan Ning's boldness or something, Chen Shi felt that there was no pressure at all, even if there was information that Gan Ning would take people to Yuan Shao's camp in 2 days. Chen Shi felt that there was no pressure. There was no way, in terms of courage, Gan Ning's goods were really not comparable to ordinary people. In that case, let's continue to do our own thing. Since Z took Xingba's boat to Yuju, thinking about it and knowing what to do is the most correct way to evacuate. It is estimated that Yuan Benchu has not received information from Xingba, and Xingba is enough to bring Gongsun Buigui back to Yuju by water. Lu Su breathed a sigh of relief. If Yuan Benchu was allowed to destroy Gongsun Zon like this, it would be over, and Qingju would have to go into battle even if he didn't want to go into battle. I suggest that General Guan be transferred to Liqing to make an all-out attack on the Jizhou mainland. Liu Yi said, you have to do a full set of acting. This time I'm going to Liqing. Zhu Gongyu must be on guard now. Relying on General Guan and General Zong alone, I'm a little uneasy. Sichuan recommends some new generals. I will take them to Temper and Temper. Guozhou's eyes flashed with a flash. I don't know if it was an illusion or something. Chen Shi always felt that Guozhou was very interested in Yuan Shao's territory. Chapter 219 The Sharpest Army Killed. The scene was reversed and replayed the moment when Zhu Yi was about to be martyred. He saw Zhu Yi, who was covered in blood, wielding a saber and slashing down a centurion, and rushed directly over to the oncoming saber, and stabbed him closely. Poof! This time Zhu Yi did not dodge. A saber pierced his abdominal cavity, but Zhu Yi had no intention of dodging at this time. The defeat of the handsome flag and the defeat of the white horse righteousness had become inevitable, and he did not need to cherish his life, and struggled to cut off the other party's head. Zhu Yi laughed. Yuan Shao's victory can no longer be reversed, and this time the white horse will lose. Get out of the way! Just when Zhu Yi was about to be besieged to death by Yi Tsong, Yang Liang rushed over and struggled to release a blood-colored blade of light, but unfortunately a 1-meter-sized blood blade shrank by more than half before it flew out of 10 meters, but Ryo still saved Zhu Yi's life. Whoa! Yang Liang gasped. In this case, the pressure on him to release internal qi was very great. You must know that if his output just now was placed in a place where there was no clouds, it would be enough to cut a blood blade dozens of meters large. But in the military formation, only such a small one could be released, and it began to shrink as soon as it flew out. Come up to me. Yang Liang rushed over, grabbed Zhu Yi's back collar with one hand, and scattered the surrounding righteous soldiers with a gun in the other hand, and then pulled his horse to kill in the other direction. To be honest, Yang Liang didn't have a good impression of Zhu Yi, who talked big before, but he was convinced by this scene on the battlefield today. He was convinced of both Zhu Yi's ability and Zhu Yi's loyalty, and it was precisely because of this that he took the risk of killing to the center of the army formation and rescued Zhu Yi. Big brother, I'm here too.
Wen Chou yelled and led the two of them into the bodyguards. Soon the two sides will be together. Righteousness. From now on I recognize you as a brother. Although I didn't like you before. Yang Liang pressed Ju Yi on his green horse, and laughed while treating him. You did so beautifully. Ju Yi hummed twice and didn't say anything more. He was also passionate before, and found that he was alone and did so much, and now he was rescued. Who would go to death? Well done. Wen Chou also laughed on the side. I have been pressed by this group of white horses for so long, and this time I must turn them into dead horses. The white horse is determined to die. As long as my heavy spear and shield soldiers withstand the first wave of attacks, you will cut off their room for maneuver. My dead men will definitely make them understand that cavalry that has lost speed is nothing more than a toy. Ju Yi laughed arrogantly. Maybe he would be despised for saying this kind of thing before, but now he has proven his ability on the battlefield. In fact, the moment Shuai Qi fell to the ground, the white horse righteous servant was already in chaos, and Gong Sun Zon behind him seemed to have been struck by lightning. His eyes were dizzy and he fell off his horse. The undefeated elite across the northern part of the Great Wall, was directly cut off at this moment. At the same time, all the first dead soldiers were on fire, and Ju Yi had already done what he said before, leading a team of 300 people, and plunged into the crowded white horse Yi Tsong, cutting off the handsome flag, and the rest was the matter of Ju Yi's dead soldiers. If the general is not afraid of death, what fear is there in the army? Ju Yi took the funeral of each soldier before sending troops. Including his own funeral arrangements, Ju Yi has fulfilled his promise. Now it's time for all the dead warriors. Kill. With a roar, the dead soldiers killed the righteous concubines desperately, completely ignoring the enemy's attack, killing the enemy, and there was only one goal, that is, to kill all these white horse righteous servants in front of them. Chopping off the enemy's head with a knife, the first death warrior slashed hard at another enemy with blood-red eyes, fierce, crazy, and not afraid of death. At this moment the first death warrior was like a ghost possessed. The blood-colored cloud frantically eroded the white cloud, until finally the plain white cloud was completely engulfed. Yuan Shao looked at the first soldier who was still holding a steel knife to support the returning team after the fight and nodded to Ju Yi in shock. At this moment he understood what was the rare elite in the world, that fierce eye, and the fierce momentum was enough to make other troops avoid the road far away. This is the soldiers under Ju Yi, the strongest attacking force called Xiandeng. The only half of the heavy spear and shield soldiers who stood before the first death soldier struggled to stand up straight. The blood-stained armor, the sunken shield, that majestic body, and the resolute look, this was the strongest escort unit under Ju Yi called halberd soldier. At this moment, Yuan Shao finally understood why Ju Yi always had the feeling of a tiger looking at a lamb when looking at his troops, because it was also a troops. Even if Ju Yi's men stood here exhausted, other troops would involuntarily detour. This is Wei, this is the elite, and the sharpest soldiers cast by the white horse righteousness for the whetstone. Right. Thank you for your hard work. Yuan Shao looked at Ju Yi, who was covered in blood and had many injuries on his body, and bowed and said, "Fortunately, it lives up to the mission." Ju Yi said solemnly, and then glanced at the generals standing behind Yuan Shao, and the kind of power made everyone's generals can't help but bow their heads and surrender. Ha 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 ha, let's go. Yuan too and the others must have set up the celebration banquet. Yuan Shao didn't care about Ju Yi's arrogant gaze at all, because he clearly felt Ju Yi's loyalty to him, a courtier who was so loyal that he did not hesitate his own life. So what about arrogance? What's more, Ju Yi has the ability to match his own arrogance, as evidenced by the white horse. He. Yuan Shao pulled Ju Yi to the front, followed by Yang Liang Wen Chou to judge the match, and then a group of civil and military officials. No one was jealous of Ju Yi at this moment, because just now Ju Yi used his tough strength to move away the mountain that pressed on the head of Jizhou, Baima Yizong. The strength that was so tough that everyone could only look up to it was enough to make all the generals submit. After a great victory, Yuan Shao completely understood the deterrent power of an elite corps, and a half-crippled first death soldier under the leadership of Ju Yi was enough for ordinary soldiers to involuntarily take a detour, and he now hopes for a complete first death soldier after forming an army. The protagonist of this banquet is Ju Yi, including Yuan Shao, who is a supporting role, and when he is drunk, Ju Yi half kneels in front of Yuan Shao. "Lord, please fight Gong Sun, this battle will end the Lord's worries." Yuan Shao laughed, probably because he was stunned and didn't understand what Ju Yi was talking about, and said without thinking, "I am convinced of the general's ability." After drinking this glass, the general went to do what he wanted to do. I, Yuan Benchu, fully support you. Chapter 220. When did my Gong Sun Zon end up like this? Yuan Shao may have been confused, but the others were not yet drunk enough to know anything, and hurriedly dissuaded Yuan Shao again and again, saying that Gong Sun Boguei had been hit hard today, although our side was a great victory, but it was also exhausted, and General Ju was also severely injured.
why rush for a while? In a word, that is, don't go. If you go, you will be unlucky. It's better not to go. Stabilize the current situation. We slowly encroach on Gongsun. Sooner or later we will win. Why be so eager to succeed? Ju Yi didn't speak, just knelt in front of Yuan Shao, and Yuan Shao, who was persuaded by everyone to wake up, stood in front of Ju Yi and did not speak, and after a long time, he poured his wine cup and handed it to Ju Yi. Dry this wine. You pioneer the impact. I will follow you. Ju Yi drank it all in one gulp and spoke solemnly. Hey! Then he walked out with the sword. Sometimes the war is fought in one breath. Ju Yi is holding his breath now. If he does not destroy Gongsun Boiguei, he will not look back. After Ju Yi left, everyone, including civil officials such as Shen Pei, began to persuade Yuan Shao. After all, Ju Yi's previous proposal was not a good idea. Gongsun Boiguei must be on guard tonight. My general is fighting ahead. How can I not keep my promise? Where is the ugliness of Yang Liang Wen? Yuan Shao put down the wine bowl and stood up, looked at everyone arrogantly, and then roared loudly. Yang Liang Wen is ugly here. Compared with the other people, these two people never compromised Yuan Shao's orders, and stood up for the first time. Organize your troops and prepare for night battles. Even if Gongsun Boiguei is prepared, I believe that he will understand the difference in strength. Yuan Shao roared, a sneak attack is impossible, then continue this morning's battle, continue this morning's victory, until the opponent is completely overwhelmed. Yuan Shao's firmness made Shen Pei and others give up their own persuasion, and instead of doing such meaningless things, it was better to find a way to win. Ju Yi was wrapped in gauze and wore a layer of iron armor on the outside. Leading 1,500 pioneers who could still fight, and selecting 3,000 reserve soldiers from the reserve, he killed directly towards the main gate of Gongsun Zon's camp. Without any concealment, he knew very well that every corner of Gongsun Zon's camp tonight was arranged with defensive troops. But because of this, Ju Yi was a little clearer, that is to say, the defense of every place was garbage. As long as it is strong enough, it makes no sense to use Gongsun Zon's current defensive style. As long as it is strong enough, even if Gongsun Zon's camp has defense, what can it do? Defeating the opponent head-on is far more fearful than petty theft, not to mention that the shadow of Bai Ma Yi's destruction has not yet dissipated. Ju Yi firmly believes that as long as he is fast enough and fierce enough to defeat the soldiers guarding the camp head-on before Gongsun Boiguei reacts, the entire Gongsun Boiguei's infantry will blow up the camp. After now, there is no such good time, so Ju Yi is willing to gamble. He doesn't want Gongsun Boiguei to retreat like this. He doesn't want to leave hidden dangers for Yuan Benchu, so he would rather go into battle with an injury. Because he knows. He was the only one who could forcibly blow up Gongsun Zon in the entire Yuan Shaojun, and only he could lead the first death soldiers to blow up Gongsun Boiguei head-on. When Ju Yi led his troops out of Yuan Shao's camp, he didn't hide it at all, and 1,500 pioneers rushed directly towards the main gate of Gongsun Boiguei's camp with 3,000 ordinary infantrymen, and the rich blood-colored clouds could almost smell the smell of blood. Ju Yi was very fast, and before Gongsun Zon's army could react, he had approached 150 steps from the camp and charged at full speed. The cloud of the first death soldier directly melted at this moment, attached to each death soldier's knife like a bloody blade, abandoned the strongest defense attack arm, turned into a blood wolf under the leadership of Ju Yi, and crashed into the camp gate of Gongsun Dajuan. The centurion guarding the camp gate was shot over by the oncoming rain of arrows before he could react. Then Ju Yi took advantage of the moment when the other party wailed directly into the camp, and in an instant it was like a tiger descending the mountain. The tiger entered the flock, and struggled to slaughter the guards guarding the camp gate. Gongsun Zon fell from his horse at the moment when the white horsey fell to the ground from the handsome flag, and just woke up not long ago. The whole person was much darker, and he no longer had the courage I had in the world with a white horse in his hand before, and the whole person suddenly aged a lot at the moment he woke up. What's going on? Gongsun Zon listened to the noise outside the camp and stood up. I didn't want to, but I suddenly felt dizzy. Almost fell to the ground again. Yuan Shaojun came to rob the camp. Guan Jing replied in a panic. Where is the white horse? Follow me to defeat the enemy. Gongsun Zon roared angrily, and then was stunned. He reacted. He no longer had a white horse, a cramping pain in his heart, and glanced outside the tent angrily. Follow me to kill the enemy. When Gongsun Zon came, Ju Yi had almost defeated the reinforcements from all directions, and was about to break into the central army. Gongsun Zon looked at the rotten battlefield. His eyes burned with anger. When did he Gongsun Zon also be forced to do this? Shoot arrows. Gongsun Zon roared angrily. Lord. Guan Jing was stunned, and quickly grabbed Gongsun Zon's arm as he was about to give orders. There are also our soldiers in front of the Lord. How can we shoot arrows? Gongsun Zon glanced at Guan Jing indifferently, and said mercilessly, Why don't you shoot arrows? That is, if I don't shoot arrows, they can repel Juyi. After saying that, he directly threw the switch and ordered the archer next to him, and the soldiers behind him saw that Gongsun Zon had given the order, so they had to draw their bows and arrows, and a rain of arrows directly enveloped the two sides who were fighting in front of them. This Gongsun Zon is actually so cold. Juyi's eyes flashed with annoyance. This was not at all like Gongsun Boiguei before. Juyi's eyes narrowed, and under the rain of arrows, he calmed down in a wail. Originally when Gongsun Zon came, he did not break through this group of reinforcements, and tonight's assault should have failed, and he should have retreated slowly, not wanting to have such an accident now. Looking at Zhu Dan, who was fighting against him, his eyes were in a trance, and Juyi understood that he still had hope, so he roared, "Yang Liang is ugly and come to help me." Yang Liang Wenchou, who was originally stationed 200 steps away from the camp, waiting for Juyi's order or seizing the opportunity to attack, turned over on his horse after this roar, and rushed towards Gongsun Deng's camp frantically with his belly. This is the code. It is the code given by Juyi. This roar means that the fighter has arrived tonight. Juyi led the first death soldiers to frantically slash and kill the surrounding infantry, not caring about his own casualties at all. He was about to win. As long as he withstood this wave of arrow rain, he could roll up the front army of Gongsun army, and the former army of Gongsun, which was about to collapse, still collapsed with this rain of arrows. There is no need to set fires. There is no need to rush everywhere. Just Gongsun Boiguei's previous actions have given Juyi a great opportunity. As long as he drives away the defeated soldiers, he can get a chance to win. Who would be willing to follow a person with a cold nature? Yang Liang Wenchou straddled the BMW and entered the camp directly, but at this time Juyi had already defeated Gongsun Boiguei's front army. In fact, if it were not for Gongsun Boiguei's rain of arrows that were indistinguishable between enemy and friend, Juyi would not have been able to roll up the entire front camp, and then drove the front army to hit Gongsun Boiguei's archers from behind. Originally, because of the defeat in the morning, there was no morale at all, and then because of the shooting of his comrades in arms, he completely lost his fighting spirit, and now he was hit by the front army, and the archers naturally fled. As for Gongsun Zon, when he saw this scene, his throat was sweet, and his eyes were dark. When did Gongsun Zon actually fall to this extent? Chapter 2:21 Time is also fate. By the time Tai Shitsi came from the back camp, the entire camp was almost swallowed up by the blood-colored clouds, and only a little bit of clouds were left to support it. In other words, if it weren't for the little bit of clouds dying there, Tai Shitsi would have to die there if he rushed in. Maybe he would be besieged and die there. A halberd slashed and killed a pioneering soldier, and the turn was a halberd to fly away the other side of the side that was ready to sneak attack, even if it was led by Tai Shitsi himself. Before rushing to rescue Gongsun Zon, his soldiers had already been killed by the pioneer soldiers. Give me death. Tai Shitsi angrily waved his double halberd, frantically slashing and killing more than a dozen pioneers who were ready to besiege beside him. He understood that he had to speed up at all costs. Once the first dead soldier completely let go of his hands and feet, even if Tai Shitsi was as brave as Liu Biyu, he had to plant here today. After this thought, Tai Shitsi completely burned, and all the weapons he had captured were all used, and a person controlled 5 or 6 weapons at the same time to frantically slash and kill all the enemies who dared to stop him, bombarding the surrounding enemies like a storm of weapons. Just raising a little of Gongsun Jun's morale. General Gongsun retreats quickly. Tai Shitsi suddenly released the looted weapons, and then rode forward to Gongsun Zon's side. At this time, Gongsun Zon had recovered, and he had completely understood the mistakes he had made before, but he had no intention of repenting at all. This first death squad is more ferocious than the Qingju soldiers selected by Yuanzi. The dispatch is more rapid, and the most important thing is that he is more fierce and not afraid of death. Tai Shitsi led Gongsun Zon's remnants along the place where he had entered before, preparing to break out again, and collected information on the first death row while rushing to kill. Thinking of this, Tai Shitsi couldn't help but tighten his heart. Whether he liked to listen or not, Yu Jin's infantry, which was selected from last year's Fengao Weijian, after more than a year of forging. Although Tai Shitsi was arrogant, he had to admit that he and Yu Jin brought 1,000 soldiers under their respective subordinates at the same time, and there was no pressure to destroy him by himself. But at the same time, he was in the corps, and Yu Jin had no pressure to destroy himself. And this time, the first death warrior that Tai Shitsi saw at the boundary bridge completely subverted his previous concept, even if Juyi's strength was not as good as his, but both sides brought 1,000 people at the same time. It is estimated that Juyi was enough to fight him. What's more, this first death squad is said to have 3,000 to 5,000. During the day, there was a wave of forced pushes for white horses, and at night, there was a wave of assaults on Gongsun Daeng. Thinking of this, Tai Shitsi's face was not very good. The powerful attack power of the first death soldier, and the crazy killing made Tai Shitsi give birth to a bad feeling. This kind of elite troops on the battlefield are too destructive, and the assault on the barracks can be done. Do you still want to attack the city? Well, Tai Shitsi's imagination is very good. although he is thinking wildly. But I thought of what the first dead soldier really had to do, saying that in history, when Ju Yi was alive, the first death soldier did the most was to attack the city. As for Ju Yi's death, the first death fell into the hands of Chun Yuqiong, and he did not dare to take the first death soldier to attack the city, bully the infantry in the field, and have a little courage. The rest is he. Therefore, the first to kill the assault is actually a professional level class. Maybe one of the hidden attributes of the first death soldier is a special attribute that increases combat effectiveness by 25% during assault operations. Of course, this is a joke. But then again, in history, there is really no way to attack the entire Yuju mainland except for Yijing, and the other cities are basically pushed by Ju Yiqiong, and the name of the first is not blown out. But it was killed properly, but unfortunately, after Ju Yi's death, the first death soldier and the halberd warrior were abolished by Chun Yuqiong and Zhong Zhuo respectively. In the official history, Ju Yi's initial record was simply crazy, and the combined record of the 4 court pillars in Hebei was not as good as Ju Yi, although there was indeed Gongsun Zon who took the road of selfishness after the failure of his own boundary bridge. But it was Ju Yi who abruptly knocked Gongsun Zon down from the peak, and he fought until Gongsun Zon couldn't raise his head, and the most important thing was to lose a game from beginning to end. What's more, the first to die was 0 defeat against the cavalry, whether it was Gongsuan's white horse or the elite of the Xiongnu Chanyu Yu Furo. During the Ju Yi period, whoever touched and died, the entire northern hegemony battle was directly the stage of Ju Yi, and it was also Ju Yi who finally hit Yijing and trapped Gongsun Zon. In short, Ju Yi in that period was like the same force in heaven and earth, and Gongsun Zon's performance was completely to transport heroes without freedom, and the performance of these two guys was completely two extremes. However, it is precisely because Ju Yi's record is too tough that the only defeat was Yuan Shao stuck in Yijing to guard Gongsun Zon's Ju Yi core grain and grass. Otherwise Ju Yi, who had been squatting for a year, might have squatted until Gongsun Zon died. This series of victories led to a consequence, that is, Ju Yi was proud of his high merits and then harmonized by Yuan Shao. The harmony was too reasonable. Ju Yi was too arrogant to the point that Yuan Shao could not afford it. Can you imagine that Ju Yi felt that Yuan Shao did not give enough rewards, and then secretly robbed Yuan Shao's home? You must know that after Yuan Shao's own house was robbed, Yuan Shao was not so angry that he wanted to kill Ju Yi. At that time Yuan Shao was in the stage of wisdom and martial arts, but he also looked for problems from himself and appeased Ju Yi. But Ju Yi became even more arrogant. Do you think Yuan Shao can bear it? So he found an opportunity to do Ju Yi. Those are Ju Yi's tricks to die in the official history, but now it is very different. The arrogant Ju Yi fought once in the first unachieved, although there was Yuan Shao's urgent order, but there was also Ju Yi's conceit. He believed that his dead soldiers could overturn the white horse even if they were semi-finished products, and as a result, he lost the first battle, and even beheaded according to his original military order. Yuan Shao helped him block it, and when everyone despised him, only Yuan Shao firmly handed over the sword to him, so that he could still train his troops until he succeeded. Because of this, Ju Yi in this life would rather be humiliated than allow anyone to tarnish Yuan Shao's glory. He can be arrogant to anyone, but in this life he will naturally lower his arrogant head in the face of Yuan Shao. Yuan Shao is the only lord he recognizes. If one day Yuan Shao dies in battle, Ju Yi will definitely go to the underworld to open up the territory for Yuan Shao first. Sometimes it is very simple to subdue an arrogant person, but more often both of them make mistakes in their own way. Just like Yuan Shao vigorously used money, beauty, mansions, and cars to win over Ju Yi's loyalty. But in the end it made Ju Yi even more arrogant and manic, and finally had to kill Ju Yi. In this world, Yuan Shao did not make any solicitation actions, but when he had no choice, he was open to trust the failed Ju Yi. But in the end the two met each other. Ju Yi no longer had an arrogant heart for Yuan Shao, and Yuan Shao also took Ju Yi as his confidant, and the monarch and his ministers were harmonious. Chapter 222. Look at the miracle medicine developed by my army division that cures all diseases. Tai Shutzi struggled to break a bloody road and took Gongsun Zon out of the encirclement. As for Gongsun Zon's infantry, he could not take care of it at all. The entire camp had basically been merged by the bloody clouds, and now this situation is almost like saying that the infantry who fell into it had completely lost the room for backhand. Read the latest and most complete novel. Yang Liang. Where is that guy Gongsun Zon? Ju Yi roared. He was also crazy, and after the defeated soldiers rolled up, he found that Gongsun Zon was gone. Wen Chou, did you kill Gongsun Boguei? Yang Liang roared in the other direction. Where is Gongsun Boguei? Wen Chou was stunned for a moment, turned his head to look in Ju Yi's direction and asked, and the three of them were dumbfounded in an instant. Stop everything. Those who surrender will not be killed. Ju Yi was stunned for a moment, and then reacted. With a loud sound, Gongsun Jun, who had already collapsed, laid down all his weapons at this moment as if he had reached the sound of nature. Stand up and know where Gongsun Zon went, and reward him with 10,000 money. Ju Yi continued to howl,
Cutting grass and roots must be done. I went to the north. Go north. Run north. The chaotic voice, in short, Gongsun Zon ran north. Yang Liang, gather the surrendered soldiers, I'll kill Gongsun Boisgouet, and the first to die will follow me. Zhu Yi turned his head and gave orders to Yang Liang. There was no unnatural situation at all, and Yang Liang was not dissatisfied at all. This kind of upright general, the simplest and fastest way to subdue is to let the other party understand how strong your ability is. After saying that, Zhu Yi took the **100 pioneers who still had combat effectiveness to kill to the north. Killing Gongsun Boisgouet was his goal. Wen Chou, you go and send a message to the Lord. We have completely defeated Gongsun's army, and Brother Zhu has taken his men to hunt down Gongsun Zon. Yang Liang saw Zhu Yi chasing out, and he didn't worry much. In his opinion, Gongsun Zon was deposed by Zhu Yi. How could he counterattack? It is also quite natural for Yang Liang to give orders to Wen Chou. How can it be unnatural for the eldest brother to command the second brother or something? Okay, big brother, gather the surrendered soldiers as soon as possible. We will lead the cavalry to chase Gongsun Zon later. The merit can be dispensed, but Gongsun Zon's head was given to the Lord. The Lord will probably be very happy. Wen Chou laughed, turned his horse around and ran towards Yuan Shao's camp, a great victory. Yuan Shao was a little anxious in the big tent. He believed in Zhu Yi's ability, but Gongsun Zon was not a vegetarian, and the shouts of killing in Gongsun's camp in the distance had already been heard, and he was not afraid of losing troops. I'm afraid that I will accidentally fold the general. Now that I think about it, it is indeed a bit reckless to agree to Zhu Yi going into battle with an injury. Report. Wen Chou rode into the camp and went straight to the big tent, and was almost shot dead by the goalkeeper Juang with random arrows. But fortunately, he was an acquaintance, although Juang was angry that Wen Chou did not abide by the military rules, but seeing his eagerness, he did not stop him, and prepared to impeach him afterwards. Say! Yuan Shao heard Wen Chou's voice, ran directly out of the military tent, and was overjoyed when he saw Wen Chou running on horseback. There was no annoyance at all. Wen Chou's behavior had proved the results of tonight's battle. As soon as he reined in his horse, Wen Chou turned over and jumped down, hugged his fist at Yuan Shao. Great victory. General Zhu's assault on Gongsun's camp has defeated Gongsun's army head-on, and now our army has occupied Gongsun's camp. Gongsun Boisgouet has fled alone, and General Zhu has led hundreds of soldiers to chase Gongsun Boisgouet, who has fled north. Ha 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 ha. Yuan Shao was overjoyed. Live up to expectations. Live up to expectations. How can I let Zhengli go out with injuries, pass on my general's orders, and pursue the whole army? Review. Feng Ji and others were also overjoyed when they heard the news. No matter whether Gongsun Zon fled alone, at least the other party was defeated, the camp was occupied, and it was unstable. Zhu Yi's ability to command troops was too shocking. No wonder he was so arrogant before. He had the capital to be proud. Lord, quickly spread the strength of Jizhou's local defense in all directions and attack Yuzhou in an all-round way. No matter whether we can kill Gongsun Boisgouet this time, we must also create facts. Forcing Gongsun Boisgouet to be in the same place as Liu Bowen, Yuzhou will inevitably be in chaos. Feng Ji's eyes rolled. Zhu Yi's strength was too amazing. Maybe this time he could directly hit Gongsun Zon's actual rule range. In this case, it is better to bring the civil strife in Yuzhou, which is about to win, and the victory or defeat will be determined in one battle. Okay. Yuan Shao was overjoyed. Yuan too quickly drafted a book and issued orders to all directions. I must let Gongsun Boisgouet understand my Yuan Benchu ability this time. After saying that, Yuan Shao whispered to the reviewer, Jingnan, quickly draft the reward matters, draft the documents, and ask for the title of Marquis for the sake of righteousness. Hey! Zhu Yi's performance this time is really too eye-catching, and the record is directly against the sky, saying that a real thing, 90% of these people present are following Zhu Yi to pick up meritorious deeds, and they have abolished Gongsun Zon alone. That night, Tai Shitzi escorted Gongsun Zon to the north, and immediately walked along the Zhong River along the waterway, and the chill of late autumn had almost no effect on a master like Tai Shitzi, but Gongsun Boisgouet, who was originally strong, was swept away by the autumn wind and was directly infected with the wind cold. Damn, what the hell is going on? How did the white horse Yitzong fall inexplicably yesterday, and how was the camp broken? Tai Shitzi washed his face with cold river water and looked puzzled, but he still didn't understand why Gongsun Zon suddenly fell. Didn't you drink a little wine with him in high spirits before? Tai Shitzi is now very grateful for the habits taught by Chen Shi. Whether you like it or not, as long as it is a battle, every soldier must prepare dry food for 3 days at any time. Well, this is just a casual talk. 5 steamed buns are not enough for 3 days at all. Of course, if you don't fight, it is probably enough. But now because of the 5 steamed buns, although Tai Shitzi's men are tired,
They barely have combat effectiveness after eating one steamed bun and drinking water. After Gongsun Zon fell ill, Guanjing panicked for the first time, but Tai Shitsi said that there was no need to worry at all. He had humanitarian troops under his command. Well, the so-called medical soldiers. As long as his soldiers were snatched back, this group of people used spirits to disinfect the wounds, and then bandaged them with linen cloth soaked in spirits, and the last bowl of medicine powder to cure all diseases was poured with water. I think how many people's intestines were cut off at the beginning, and the medical soldiers under their command sewed them with a sewing needle, and then bandaged them, and fed the medicine on time. They could snatch back a lot. Just a little cold, a trivial matter. Don't underestimate the battlefield rescue methods developed by my military division. You don't believe it? Tai Shitsi was very dissatisfied with Guanjing's suspicions, so let the facts speak. Guanjing has no good way now. Gongsun Zon is already a little confused, and he admits it when he is in a hurry to go to the doctor. General, I have given General Gongsun the medicine, and according to the previous situation, he will wake up soon. The head of the medics said confidently. In other words, if Chenshi knew that his medics were so messy, he would definitely slap the other party to death. Gongsun Zon is a wind cold. It's not too much blood loss. Okay, those medicine powders are all medicines that replenish blood and vitality. Are you going to eat Gongsun Zon to death? Chenshi's medicine powders are all prepared for those who have been cut on the battlefield. After all, when they go to the battlefield, they are basically knife wounds, gunshot wounds, that is, bleeding and other injuries. So Chenshi received the medicine, found some blood and vitality to dry and press into powder, purely to deal with the soldiers who lost too much blood, and as a result, it is now used to treat Gongsun Zon's wind and cold. Is this to kill Gongsun Zon? Oh, that's good. Don't save, feed more. Tai Shitsi trusted this medicine very much, saved tens of thousands of people, and sometimes he would take some when he couldn't sleep all night, and Gongsun Zon's little injury was completely stress-free. Sure enough, after a package of medicine was taken, Gongsun Zon, who was originally yellow, quickly became rosy. Tai Shitsi looked at Guanjing with a proud face. His own miraculous medicine cures all diseases, and when fighting, he can feel the power surging upwards when he takes a pack. How magical. Chapter 223. A certain miracle medicine was not blown out. Guanjing was overjoyed to see Gongsun Zon wake up, and said in his heart that Tai Shitsi was still very reliable. Lord, you have finally woken up. This article is written by Starter. What's wrong with me? Gongsun Zon said a little groggily. Guanjing told Gongsun Zon what had happened before, and saw Gongsun Zon sitting up with difficulty and bowing to Tai Shitsi. Thank you Z for your help before, otherwise, I might have been trapped in it. General Gongsun doesn't have to be polite. I'm here to protect the general. Since the general has woken up, then please get on your horse and walk along the Zhong River. Presumably Xingba's fleet will come to pick us up and take us back to Yuju soon. Tai Shitsi waved his hand to show that he was ashamed. If you say that, it seems that Xuanda has already been prepared. Gongsun Zon was stunned for a moment, and a trace of doubt appeared in his eyes, but Tai Shitsi did not notice. That's... Tai Shitsi hadn't had time to boast about how calculating his military division was, and a scout rode over on a horse. The general hurry up, and Yang Liang from Hebei has chased his troops for miles away. General Gongsun will mount his horse and walk along the Zhong River, and I will stop the enemy. Tai Shitsi said to Gongsun Zon with a smile, then turned over and ran in the direction of the scout. He had long wanted to meet Yang Liang Wen Chou, two famous generals of Hebei, for a while. After Tai Shitsi left, Gongsun Zon's eyes exuded a touch of madness. Shichi, let's go. Gongsun Zon pointed in the other direction and said. Guanjing was stunned. Lord, why don't you go along the river? Gan Xingba's reinforcements must be rushing here. Why should we try to cause trouble? Reinforcements? Gongsun Zon glanced at Guanjing disdainfully. Reinforcements or enemy troops are two things. Didn't you hear what Tai Shitsi said before? Guanjing was stunned for a moment, looking at Gongsun Zon a little stiffly, and in a trance he saw Gongsun Zon go away. When did the loyal Gongsun Zon become like this? Guanjing drove his horse towards Gongsun Zon, who had gone away, in despair, and at this moment the road they were traveling on was completely opposite to the previous road. Did they part ways? Tai Shitsi took his men to prepare to fight with Yang Liang. Anyway, he and Yang Liang had less than 1,000 people, and when the time came, 99 out of 10 would go head-to-head. Since it was a head-to-head, who would be afraid of whom? Tai Shitsi roared and ran in the other direction. While letting Yang Liang deviate from the direction he was chasing, he was also preparing to find a remote place to prepare to kill Yang Liang. Of course, this was Tai Shitsi's idea. Yang Liang reined in his horse. He had a good sense of hearing, and naturally heard Tai Shitsi's trumpet clearly, and immediately laughed. Let's go. Chase over there. On the other side, Ju Yi, who chased out early, had already run north of the Zhong River because of an accident, and was still wondering why he couldn't find Gong Sun Zon. Oh, Tai Shutzi reined in his horse. Turning the horse's head to look at Yang Liang. Are you Yang Liang from Hebei? I didn't expect to meet Gong Sun Zon and actually met a master. Yang Liang said with his eyes shining. Since he returned to Hebei, he had never met a real master, especially Gong Sun Zon, who was purely crushed with strong soldiers. Are you willing to surrender? The feng shui here seems to be good by the water and the forest. Tai Shutzi bird is not a bird with a good face, but instead made a cameo appearance as a feng shui master, and he learned a lot of boring things. Of course, these things are not even fur, but they are used to set scores. Fooling around the big boss or something is definitely enough to scare a bunch of people. Yang Liang didn't answer. There was no way. This kind of thing was too tall. He didn't understand it at all. How about making your cemetery here? Tai Shutzi's words turned sharply, and he asked with a cold face. I didn't understand the previous words. Yang Liang still understood this sentence, and suddenly rushed up directly without Tai Shutzi's provocation. This cemetery is still left to you. Tai Shutzi sneered, holding Fang Qian painting halberd and killing Yang Liang directly, and in an instant, the two of them passed more than 100 moves, and the turf of the four directions was directly blown away by the energy of the two. Ha 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 ha. It's been a long time since I've been so refreshed. Again. The internal energy on Yang Liang's body converged, the blood-colored internal energy coiled on the spear, and a layer of illusory armor also appeared on his body. Tai Shutzi suddenly burst out with a burst of internal energy, and then directly absorbed all those internal chi without waiting for the internal chi to disperse, forming a layer of armor on his body, and the blade of the Fang Qian painting halberd in his hand swallowed and spat out sharp light. I don't have time to play with this guy, and sure enough, Yang Liangwen's ugly name is not blown out, but I have a great army divine medicine as the base. When Tai Shutzi faced Yang Liang again, the whole person erupted with a frenzied inner energy, and all 18 weapons appeared around Tai Shutzi, frantically attacking Yang Liang Wenso, and he instantly suppressed Yang Liang Wencho with his unique skills. Don't think it's just you. Yang Liang was beaten by the storm-like attack around him and couldn't raise his head at all. His suppressed anger was suppressed, his eyes were blood-red, and he picked up the Fang Qian painting halberd that was cut from the front, and then the blood-colored flames burned on his body, and he directly killed Tai Shutzi's weapon storm. I don't know how Yang Liang did it. The blood-colored flame corroded a large piece of the materialized weapon the moment it was glued to Tai Shutzi's internal energy. What the hell is this? When a large piece of the 18 weapons he manifested was burned down, Tai Shutzi suddenly felt that his inner chi began to leak out wildly, and the declined speed made Tai Shutzi feel incredible. Seeing that Yang Liang's spear also appeared with a lot of blood flames, Tai Shutzi no longer hesitated, and collected 18 weapons to concentrate his internal chi on the Fang Qian painted halberd, and he found that fighting a war of attrition with Yang Liang did not seem to be a good choice. Give me death. In an instant, Tai Shutzi was like a god possessed. Fang Qian painting halberd locked Yang Liang's spear in Yang Liang's disbelief eyes, and the blood flame that could burn internal chi actually did not make any contributions, and Tai Shutzi's Fang Qian painting halberd also slashed towards Yang Liang's chest. Yang Liang was made fierce by Tai Shutzi's blow, and the spear in his hand stabbed Tai Shutzi hard towards Tai Shutzi's chest, with the momentum of dying together. Damn! Tai Shutzi scolded secretly, struggled to deflect to the right, and slashed towards Yang Liang with the direction of the Fang Qian painting halberd in his hand. This time he was also ruthless, fighting to seriously injure Yang Liang. Give me death. Yang Liang stabbed Tai Shutzi hard, the spear passed through his chest, and then let go of his spear under Tai Shutzi's disbelief eyes, and reluctantly walked backwards. Dodged the attack that cut himself in half, but Ere was like this. Yang Liang's left shoulder to right waist was also cut out of a huge hole, and even the internal organs could be seen in some places. The corners of Tai Shutzi's mouth kept overflowing with blood, and Yang Liang was not much better, although the masters of the internal chi separation level had an amazing recovery speed. But like the degree of serious injuries of these two people, it is estimated that it is impossible to recover on their own. Are you still a warrior? After Tai Shutzi was snatched back by his men, he struggled to pull out Yang Liang's spear, trying to suppress the wound to prevent it from bleeding, and Yang Liang was not much different. Both sides had lost the ability to continue fighting, and could only try their best to suppress their injuries. What the Lord needs is not a warrior. What the Lord needs is Gong Sun Zon's head. You and others block the Lord's path, so as long as I can kill you, I don't mind. Yang Liang said with difficulty, this time I lost, and I also know that my men can't stop you at all, but you wait, my second brother Wencho will definitely catch you. How long can you survive without medication? Tai Shutzi stuck Yang Liang's spear on the ground and did not speak, and then the medic quickly brought the medicine powder. Tai Shutzi directly poured it all into his mouth and swallowed it. Under the action of strong internal energy, he quickly absorbed the nutrients in it, and his pale face, which had lost too much blood, appeared a touch of rosiness. Yang Liang looked at this scene a little dumbfounded. The effect of this medicine is too good. Chapter 224 The 300 Wars. Tens of thousands of things are really touching. After eating the medicine, Tai Shitsi rushed towards Yang Liang with Fang Qian's halberd. The light blade on the Fang Qian halberd was not strong, but he couldn't stand Yang Liang's serious injury and couldn't deal with it. Withdraw! Yang Liang roared and rode his horse and turned around and left. Tai Shitsi chased for hundreds of meters, and it seemed that because of the horsepower problem and the singleness problem, he reluctantly stuck Fang Qian's halberd on the ground. When the soldiers beside him won a great victory in morale under the leadership of Tai Shitsi, and were about to continue to catch up to kill Yang Liang, Tai Shitsi reined in his horse and stood still, then turned around and ran in the direction of the round with Gongsun Zon. But before he ran a few hundred meters, a large mouthful of blood sprayed out, and his face, which originally had a touch of blood, instantly turned pale, and the wound that had been barely suppressed with internal energy spilled out of blood again. Retreat quickly. Although Tai Shitsi admitted that the medicine developed by Chen Shi did have a special effect on excessive blood loss and great loss of vitality, but such a quick effect was definitely a joke. This was completely. He suppressed the wound and pretended to be okay. Look, this is a matter of combat IQ. Tai Shitsi at least knows that in the case of being alone, after being seriously injured, he will leave an impression of recovery on the enemy, and create a special effect of the invincible miracle medicine instantly full of blood. The general also asked me to dismount. I will wait for you to bandage and apply medicine. You will swallow another pack of medicine powder, and then take some tigers and leopards to make up for it, to ensure that you can recover within half a month. The medical soldier knew what was going on when he saw Tai Shitsi vomiting out a mouthful of blood. He had been wondering how the effect of the medicine could be so amazing before, although the effect of this medicine was indeed very good, but it would not be like this. Speed. Tai Shitsi dismounted and sat on the grass. Ren Medic quickly dealt with it, and soon the medical soldier put hemostatic medicine on the wound, saying that Chen Shi knew that there were two hemostatic herbs. One was Qian Qi, the other was by Mao Zhen. As for Qian Qi, which he had not seen with his own eyes, Chen Shi still believed in by Mao Zhen. After all, this kind of thing is all over the mountains. A handful of external medicinal powder was applied, then wrapped in linen, and then the medicinal powder was poured into the water. After doing this, Tai Shitsi and the medics were relieved, although this group of guys didn't know much about changing dressings. Bandaging is tight. There are also problems such as wound treatment, but relying on this method now is enough to save many people. In other words, there is basically no technical content at all, and the medics have not cultivated much. Although Tai Shitsi's face was still a little pale, he felt a lot more at ease. After such a bandage, he himself felt a lot more relaxed, and the rest was to eat a few meals and raise it for more than 10 days to recover, and the recovery power of the master of the internal chi level could not be underestimated. Extinguish the fire. Walk. Tai Shitsi rested for a while and nibbled on a rabbit caught by his subordinates. I feel that my strength has recovered a lot. At least I can barely continue to play with the inside and outside, and with this trick, my life safety is guaranteed. On the other side, Yuan Shao looked at Yang Liang's huge wound and was frightened to death, but fortunately, Yang Liang promised that it would be okay if he lay down for a month with just a minor injury. But Yuan Shao still grabbed a doctor and asked him to treat Yang Liang's injuries, and then raised good wine, good food, big fish and meat, and then ordered others to chase Gongsun Zon. Big brother, how did you end up like this? Wen Chou looked at Yang Liang, who was mummied, and was surprised. Don't mention it. I always thought that Gongsun Boiguei didn't have a master, but this time I saw it, and I was injured by others. If it weren't for the flash, it would have been cut in half by him. By the way, second brother, you should also be careful. Don't exchange injuries with him. We can't afford to change it. That guy has a medicine to take and be fine. Yang Liang advised Wen Chou. I'll be careful, big brother. Lie down. I'll go avenge you. Wen Chou nodded. As for how unreasonable what Yang Liang said, he didn't pay attention at all. Since people have medicine to take it, they can get better, then use the army to pile up the other party. What? The White Horse Righteous was defeated? Gan Ning grabbed the collar of a defeated soldier of Gongsun army and asked, first stunned, and then overjoyed, the military division is worthy of being a military division. Let's go. Let's go avenge Gongsun Boiguei. After walking dozens of miles, he encountered a defeated soldier of the Gongsun army, and this time the news surprised Gan Ning. What camp has been taken? Isn't it always pressing Yuan Shao to fight? This news directly frightened Gan Ning. Even if Gan Ning was bold, he knew what it meant. Didn't this mean that Gongsun Zon was completely finished? Has the entire army been beaten? The 50,000 or 60,000 troops were captured. How does this save Gan Ning? 300 people. You try to save one? Boss, should we withdraw? An officer from the Jiang bandit under Gan Ning said in a low voice.
Call me supervisor. Don't call me boss. I'm not a water thief, I'm a naval general. Pull out a hair and wait for an opportunity. Gongsun Zon was defeated and we didn't show up. How can I explain it when I come back? Gan Ning turned his head and asked with an unhappy face. It's the boss. The officer stood up straight and replied. Gan Ning glanced at the officer, and finally gave up on re-education. What do you think we should do? Without any record, the fighters were finished without catching anyone, and we couldn't let our 300 people go to fight Yuan Shao's victorious division. When he said this, Gan Ning suddenly seemed to think of something. It was not impossible. 300 people fighting tens of thousands of people sounded like it. So he looked at his men with bright eyes. He couldn't beat him head-on, wouldn't he sneak attack? Report, boss, when I went hunting just now, I caught a grain transport soldier of Yuan Shao's army. A pawn ran over and said excitedly. Well done, let me think about how it was written in the book that the military advisor gave me. By the way, let's go burn their grain and grass. Gan Ning said excitedly. A group of bold water thieves who didn't know how to write the word death found a grass and squatted in, and then waited for Yuan Shao's grain transporters to arrive, and suddenly overturned all Yuan Shao's soldiers. Hurry up. Change clothes quickly. Gan Ning watched his men laugh and drag Yuan Shaojuan's body into the grass, then took off his armor or something and put it on himself and others. Gan Ning escorted the grain and grass to the Handan granary soon, and the grain supervisor stood at the door and asked Gan Ning, there is no problem on the road. Cut, except for meeting a few Gongsun Zon's deserters. Gan Ning said disdainfully, saying that Gan Ning's disdain is not pretending, but real disdain. Such a big advantage can be lost. Do you still want Gan Ning to admire? Chapter 225, Burning the Handan Granary. You stay there first. I'll have someone try the grain and transport it in. The grain supervisor pointed to the small village outside the granary and motioned for Gan Ning to stay there first. Okay, hurry up and find a few cooks. Our brothers are starving to death. Bring me a few bowls when they are cooked. Gan Ning transported the grain and grass to Xiaozhai indifferently, and his soldiers also coaxed. Soon. The grain supervisor smiled, and it was easy to beat himself in the front, so he didn't have any dissatisfaction with Gan Ning's coaxing. As long as he didn't violate military regulations, the grain supervisor wouldn't mind. Soon the new grain escorted by Gan Ning, the lunch made of jerky was ready. Gan Ning and his subordinates took several large bowls and found a place to squat there to start eating, and several soldiers who tried the grain saw that Gan Ning and others were eating fragrant food, and 3 hours later, Gan Ning, who had eaten and supported himself, was carried into the Handan granary. In the afternoon, Gan Ning was lying in his camp. Yuan Shaobing's classification was very mixed, and his grain transport team was from the Bohai Sea, so everyone didn't know anyone. Cabbage, what about the tung oil that I asked you to find in other camps? Gan Ning hummed as if he was pretending to be dead. Boss, I just slipped around. You don't know, this Handan granary is said to be a granary, but it is actually a logistics base, not only hoarding a large amount of food, but also war materials, horses, and so on. Cabbage said with bright eyes, especially when it comes to horses, the glittering eyes can scare people. Why are you talking nonsense? Gan Ning slapped the other party's head and said very unhappily, I asked if you have the tung oil you wanted? Yes. Boss, I mean, it's not good for us to just burn food. You see that there are horses hoarded here. There are strong cattle pulling carts here. Jizhou is really rich. There are more than 1,000 horses and strong cattle. Kalen continued to persuade. Who said we just want to burn grain? This uncle is now collecting intelligence, and asked if the situation of Gongsun Zon you asked about came out. Gan Ning asked unceremoniously. This is simple. When I was eating before, I pulled a group of people to pour wine. After pouring over, they said everything. Gongsun Zon went north, and then a fierce general seriously injured Yang Liang near the Zhongshui River. Cabbage said with a hippie smile. As a loyal general prepared by his father when Gan Ning left home, Cabbage can be regarded as one of the best. It seems that Z is not confused. Okay, since Z is fine. We just keep squatting here. Let's see when it's our turn to defend the camp. How can the victorious Jizhou not let the uncle take advantage? Gan Ning said with a cheap smile. On the third day of Gan Ning's arrival at the Handan camp, the grain supervisor arranged for Gan Ning to guard the camp at night, and Gan Ning also had a few words with the grain supervisor, and then went to prepare tung oil and torches with an indignant face. No way, these things are necessary for patrolling the camp at night. Dude, give me 1,000 ready-made torches. Gan Ning said unhappily to a sergeant in the rear camp who was counting the inventory. Not ready-made. Sergeant Cao took the jerky handed over by Gan Ning and said, if you see that there are no trees outside, just cut them down. Just come and wrap the cloth soaked in tung oil, and now there are no enemies, you can just do it.
The sergeant pointed to the camp outside and said, nearly 20 miles away. "Brother, if you don't have someone, do you want to play?" At this moment, Cabbage roared outside. "Okay, come right away." Sergeant Cow laughed. He has won a lot recently, but Cabbage is not convinced every day, and he wants to fight again, so he will naturally not let it go. "Brother, you can take whatever you want here, as long as it's not too much." Buddy will pretend not to see it, but remember to help your brother look at the door. "I'm going to kill a big one today." The sergeant slipped away like that, and the entire warehouse was lost to Gan Ning. There was no way that Gan Ning had become familiar with a few necessary people in recent days, saying that Gan Ning, a daring guy, was in the enemy camp, and there was no pressure on the enemy side to change his color. As for the grain supervisor, it is estimated that he is still gambling Pai-Go with a warehouse sergeant and Cabbage, although he has heard Chen Shi say it a few times. But Gan Ning just spelled out the rules. As for whether it is right or not, it doesn't matter, as long as it can hook people. "Dude, what are you doing?" The sergeant who was guarding the camp handed over asked curiously as he watched Gan Ning and his men holding basins of water and scattering them. "If you sprinkle some water, it's not easy to catch fire." Gan Ning replied casually. "Dude, you're so witty." After the handover of the sergeant guarding the camp, it was a thumbs up to Gan Ning. In this late autumn period, the sky was dry, and it really made sense to sprinkle some water, and the sergeant felt that it was his turn to do the same next time. After handing over the token of the camp, the previous sergeant left calmly, and Gan Ning splashed the water in the basin at will, then filled it with tung oil and mixed it with wine and began to pour it everywhere. More than a dozen tanks of tung oil went down, and all the places that the entire camp should take care of were taken care of, but Gan Ning still felt that it was not enough, so he moved more than a dozen tanks, and after waiting for more than a dozen tanks to be sprinkled, there was a faint smell of wine in the entire camp, but fortunately, there were not many people who woke up now, and occasionally a few came out to scold. And the patrol camp stole wine and did not take themselves. "How's the cabbage?" Gan Ning saw Cabbage trotting all the way, so he asked. "It's okay, I did both of those guys." Kale said terrifying things with a smile on his face. "Oh, let's go to the rear camp and prepare to ride a horse. You are either from my Gan family, or the leaders of water thieves everywhere. Don't tell me that you can't ride a horse." Gan Ning casually threw the torch, and the others also threw the torch towards the camp, and soon flames burned in all directions. "Aye!" Gan Ning almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. He didn't skim it on purpose, he just did it smoothly, but when his subordinates saw that they had skimmed it, the others followed suit, and then the campfire broke out, and other places were also ordered to throw torches in. "Hurry to the rear camp, receive the horses, and then take a boat to the Zhanghe River to send Gongsun Buague back to the camp." As soon as Kalen saw Gan Ning's expression, he knew what was going on, and then he opened his mouth to give orders to cover up the embarrassment for Gan Ning. That night, the Handan granary caught fire, which could be seen dozens of miles away, and the fire did not go out all night, and finally burned the entire camp to white ground, and almost no one escaped. Gan Ning rode his horse all the way back. The information recently collected in the Handan granary made Gan Ning completely extinguish the idea of the so-called 300 to tens of thousands. He already knew how Gongsun Zon was defeated, although there were reasons for mistakes, but more of it was that the enemy was too strong. And the first to die in front of the White Horse righteous soldiers who had overturned 10,000 white horses was now in Yuan Shao's camp, and there was only one way to die for 300 people. It was precisely because of that idea that Gan Ning stayed in the Handan granary for a few days, just to figure out how to make up for it. Yuan Shao's idea couldn't be beaten, but other ideas could be beaten. For example, the fire of the Handan granary cut off Yuan Shao's supply of grain and grass, which is also a great achievement. Chapter 226 The Restless Burning Heart. Gan Ning ran all the way with his men and 3 horses, returned to the place where he parked the boat, and then dragged the boat out of the reeds, looking at the nearly 1,000 horses under his command a little entangled, and couldn't take it away. "Cabbage, look for where there are water bandits. As the boss I want to requisition ships." Gan Ning said helplessly. "There is no way not to take the horses away, unwilling. I have to say that this era is good. There are bandits in the mountains, horse thieves in the grassland, bandits on the road, and naturally there are *** in the river." It didn't take long for Cabbage to find a river bandit, and then under the leadership of Gan Ning, the fire overnight and the Black ate all the boats to snatch away, which can be regarded as a ship to transport. And said that Gongsun Zon did not listen to Tai Shutzi's arrangement and went in another direction, and Tai Shutzi did not deliberately check because of his serious injury and chased directly in the direction he said, but he was stunned all the way and did not find it, and he was dumbfounded. When Cho led his troops to avenge Yang Liang, but did not find Tai Shutzi's footprints, and found Gongsun Zon's footprints after going in the wrong direction, so he chased all the way as Tai Shutzi, and at the same time, Ju Yi also estimated that he might have run over, so he turned over and searched back. All in all, Gongsun Zon was congratulated on making a bait. General, after many days of investigation, it was finally determined that General Gongsun should have gone in the opposite direction from us. Tai Shutzi's personal guards clasped their hands and said. Tai Shutzi is now a little speechless. He is a little speechless about Gongsun Zon. He has gone to block the enemy. What else do you want? General, should we still go north along the Zhong River? His personal guards continue to ask. Our army can still support half a month with grain and grass. Go north. What's going on with that bastard Gan Xingba? Why hasn't he come yet? Tai Shutzi looked depressed, and he was almost out of food a few days ago. It took a group of bandits to hold on, and it is said that his injuries no longer affect his activities, as long as he does not fight fiercely. On the other hand, Gongsun Zon in the upper reaches of the Zhong River, since he was separated from Tai Shutzi that day, Gongsun Zon became weaker and weaker day by day, and then began to have a fever. Gongsun Zon burned in a daze. There were problems with the command, and in the end the power could only be handed over to Guanjing, and everything was handed over to Guanjing to handle. And the more than 1,000 soldiers gathered by his subordinates along the way also continued to desert with Gongsun Zon's illness. Water. Water. Gongsun Zon vaguely felt thirsty and said with difficulty. Guanjing saw Gongsun Zon regain consciousness, and the whole person was a lot excited. Quickly feed the water to Gongsun Zon. Lord, you have finally woken up. Where is this place? Gongsun Zon moved his head with difficulty and asked. We are still in Jizhou. Yuan Shao has been searching for them recently. We tried to deceive them a few times, but I think they are about to catch up. Guanjing smiled bitterly and informed Gongsun Zon of the recent situation. Go north, go to Yuzhou. As long as we get to Zhuojuan, we will be safe. Gongsun Zon said with difficulty. He now regretted why he had to separate from Tai Shutzi at that time. As long as there is a special medicine from Tai Shutzi, there is no need to be as difficult as it is now. It was a big mistake to leave without a cure at that time. Gongsun Zon didn't know at all that the reason why he was so miserable now was entirely because of the problem of the pack of tonic. If it weren't for that pack of tonic, even if Gongsun Zon fell ill and lay down for a few days, after the psychological problem passed, it wouldn't take long for him to recover, refining qi into a gang physique, and resisting the first antibody, of course, as long as he was not terminally ill. The anti-first antibody could pass. Guanjing ordered his men to drive the carriage, and then slowly march towards the north. Zhuojuan was still very far away, especially when it was necessary to take care of a patient. The news of the burning of the Handan granary has reached Yuan Shao, and it is known that it was burned by a group of 300 Gongsun defeated troops. Yuan Shao's whole person is crazy. This is what he was preparing to use to fight a protracted war before, and now he is ready to use it to occupy all the strategic reserves of Yuzhou. As for eating the enemy, don't you know that Gongsun Zon has transferred all the grain at the junction of Yuzhou and Jizhou? Yuan 2, is our counteroffensive plan over? Yuan Shao sat at the table and said with a bitter face. It will take at least a month from the Bohai Sea to remobilize grain and grass in Yecheng, and the grain and grass in our camp are only enough for 10 days, so it can be said that it is a problem for us to withdraw now. Feng Ji said bitterly, the situation is good, it was burned by such a fire. Lord, the only way to do this is to find Gongsun Boiguei, otherwise we will really have to return in vain this time, and the good situation will be given away. Shun Pei's face was also extremely ugly, and his hatred for Gongsun Ruejuan, who set fire to the Handan granary, was enough to burn the other party into dregs. It's no choice but to do this. We have completely lost the possibility of counteroffensive along the way, and we can only look at Yeruo and Yuan Hao. Yuan Shao sighed, and in desperation, he had no choice but to agree to scatter his men and go to search and suppress Gongsun Zon. If we can't see Gongsun Boiguei's head within 3 days, we will have to withdraw our troops and return to the south. But unfortunately this great situation created by Zhengli will actually be missed by me carelessly. Yuan 2, remember to remind me of this every battle in the future. Yuan Shao sighed, and the good situation was given away. Kale, how are you doing? Gan Ning asked while nibbling on the corbel. I have found the mark left by General Taisha, and I should be able to catch up with General Taisha in the lower reaches of the Zhong River in 2 days at most. Cabbage said calmly, if you can find the mark, it means that Tai Shutzi is safe. Oh, where is Yuan Benchu? How about the gift that Uncle Ben gave him? Burn it. This book is indeed good. The most poisonous is water and fire. I didn't expect it to really burn to the ground. You did a good job of Cabbage, and you actually remembered to bring tung oil with you when you left. Gan Ning patted Kalen on the shoulder and said, Yuan Benchu already knew about the Handan granary, but the other party still seemed to regard us as ordinary bandits and defeated troops, and in the past 3 days, a large number of infantry have been sent to find Gongsun Zon, so we don't have much time. If you say that, Yuan Shao's camp is empty. Gan Ning touched his chin and said, "This seems to be a good opportunity. General, I suggest that we don't take risks now. Yuan Shao's army has been destined to suppress the range of activities of General Taisha and General Gongsun. Our goal is to rescue, not challenge, not to mention that we don't have the strength to deal with Yuan Shao's army now. Even if his cavalry still has the first to die, the halberds have all been sent to search for General Gongsun." Cabbage had already seen through Gan Ning's restless adventurous heart, and warned righteously that Gan Ning's father stuffed Gan Ning into Gan Ning's team to let Gan Ning dissuade Gan Ning from messing around. Chapter 227A Fire in Late Autumn. Gan Ning glanced at the cabbage. He now had an idea of burning, since he threw out a torch before, and then his subordinates threw a lot of it, and then the entire Handan granary was burned to the ground. Gan Ning had an epiphany: nothing is better than setting fire to burn. "Kale, give you a task?" Gan Ning threw away the cow leg that he had gnawed a few bites. "This is a difficult task, not something ordinary people can complete." "I won't do it." Gan Ning didn't finish speaking. Gan Lan refused. He was not as good as Gan Ning. Chen Shi opened his mouth to come to a difficult task. Not the world's fierce generals could not complete, not wisdom and courage could not be completed. Gan Ning said without thinking that this was tailor-made for himself. "This is the second to a certain realm, otherwise who will take on this crazy task?" The ship sank 5 times, swam from the sea to the mouth of the Yangtze River 5 times, and once encountered the legendary life, and then Gan Ning actually caught up with and killed the mythical Kuan. "Your sister, Kalen, feels that what she is playing with Gan Ning is a heartbeat." Gan Ning's action of slapping Cabbage was a little stiff, and he couldn't do it. It was too embarrassing. "I order you in the name of the Chief of the Navy to lead 100 people to take a boat down the Zhong River to meet Z." "Yes, 100 people. You lead 100 people to pick up Z. I lead 100 people to set fire. Such a good time. As the Chief of the Navy, if I don't catch it, I'm really sorry. I want to burn him to death." Gan Ning said arrogantly. "Let's go together." Cabbage looked at Gan Ning's determined expression, and finally determined that he had absolutely no way to persuade Gan Ning, who had entered a state of combustion. Said helplessly, "You know a hair, with our troops, there is no difference at all between 100 people and 300 people. Okay, I will lead 100 people to win all the victory, and I will bring you some deaths." Gan Ning glanced at the cabbage and said, it must be admitted that the contempt in Gan Ning's eyes was very strong. Cabbage hesitated for a moment, and finally nodded, although this was not good, but Gan Ning was telling the truth. He is not so much a personal guard as a strategist of Gan Ning, and his melee ability is worse than that of ordinary soldiers. When he went to the battlefield, he didn't know whether he was protecting Gan Ning or Gan Ning protecting him. By the time Gan Ning returned with the cabbage that had finished watching the camp, the sunset had already set in the west, and night was approaching. "Xingba, although I don't really agree with your decision, but this time I give you a proposal as a friend. Don't go for food and grass, and don't go for logistics. Let's go directly to Yuan Shao's main tent camp. The grain, grass, and logistics are too tight. On the contrary, the main camp is weakly defended, so you directly rush to kill the camp, don't aim to kill the enemy. For the purpose of damaging the morale of the other party, as long as it is fast enough, it may really meet your requirements." Although Cabbage was dissatisfied with Gan Ning's crazy proposal, when Gan Ning had already chosen to do this, Cabbage no longer persuaded him, and instead began to explain to Gan Ning how to win the greatest victory in this sneak attack. "Okay, I know, you lead 100 people to pick up Z quickly, the remaining 100 people are waiting here. I will lead 100 people, and all the horses to sneak attack." Gan Ning nodded and said that he had listened to what Gan Lan said, and there would be no mistakes. Xingba took advantage of the fact that it was still early, and ordered his subordinates to transform the dozen cars with tung oil barrels on the ship, and pull them up with a strong cow. If you want to burn the other party, these tung oils are essential, and the strength and endurance of the strong ox far exceed that of horses. Even if you see that the situation is not good, even if you retreat, set fire to the oil tank. And the strong bull can also create an opportunity for you. Seeing that Gan Ning was extremely excited, Gan Lan had to say helplessly, as a book boy raised by the Gan family since childhood, the value of his own existence is to ensure Gan Ning's safety. At night, Gan Ning took the modified ox cart, led 100 of his men to ride horses, and pulled the cart slowly towards Yuan Shao's camp, while Gan Lan left here when the sun went down, leading 100 of his men down the Zhong River to find Tai Shi. Gan Ning did not march fast, dragged by an ox cart. It took a while to reach a few hundred steps outside Yuan Shao's camp. The gate of the main camp was brightly lit. It was obvious that even if Yuan Shao planned to retreat tomorrow, there were not too many omissions in the defense that night, and he still let his sergeants patrol the camp, but this time there was no Juan guarding the camp gate, only a dozen small pawns. "Who is coming?" When Gan Ning approached 50 steps, a sharp-eyed pawn guarding the camp saw a figure in the dark.
Search for Gongsun Zon's calf. Just came back. Gan Ning replied nonchalantly, saying that he was completely pressure-free about this kind of bragging. As he spoke, Gan Ning walked forward alone for more than a dozen steps, and the other party was relieved to see that only Gan Ning came up alone, but Ureo still let Gan Ning stand on the edge of the torch lighting. Token look. The captain of the goalkeeper said to Gan Ning. Okay. Gan Ning took 2 more steps, as if he was taking something out of his waist. A smile appeared on his face. He had locked everyone's position, and he was sure that he would kill everyone with 1 blow at this distance. Look. Token tilde. Puff. In an instant, a quiet brilliance like clear water flashed, and the scattered gatekeepers, including the secret whistle, all fell to the ground. Hurry up. Gan Ning asked his men to carefully move the horse away, thinking that the method of cabbage was not generally useful, and after carefully reorganizing the team, he made a small eye out of each of the barrels and oil cylinders of the ox cart, ignited it with fire, and then stabbed it in the buttocks of the cow with a knife, and with a whining, all the cattle pulled the Tung oil cart towards Yuan Shao's camp. Kill. Gan Ning roared, and directly followed the flames ignited by the ox cart to kill in. He already knew the layout of Yuan Shao's camp. All he had to do now was to rush in and slaughter Yuan Shao. Of course this was a joke. Gan Ning's soldiers numbered several horses and followed Gan Ning forward, and from time to time they picked up a leather bag of Tung oil from the horse beside him and ignited it, or directly splashed it around. Enemy attack. The ox cart collapsed 2 packs of tents, and a mournful scream finally came from Yuan Shao's camp. Kill, kill, kill. Gan Ning arbitrarily exclaimed his inner energy, saying that he couldn't kill a few people, it was purely to scare him. But no matter how angry he was, Gan Ning remembered his goal, that is, to burn Yuan Shao's military tent. Who is the night attack? Yuan Shao roared after getting up in his pajamas. Don't worry, my lord, Yang Liang is here. Yang Liang came in a single dress, and after being seriously injured by Tai Shutsi, Yang Liang has recovered 80% by now. Let's go, let's see who dares to invade my camp. Yuan Shao walked out of the tent directly with a sword. P.S. Burn, 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 burn at this time. Yuan Shao, a winner in life who has just defeated Gongsun Zon, will definitely be burned. Chapter 228 100 Cavalry Robbery Camp. Gan Ning's speed was very fast, because he knew very well that as long as Yuan Shao's men reacted, as long as enough people came out of the big tent, they would soon be connected into a cloud, then his robbery camp would become a death penalty. So this time there was only one request, that is, fast, and he left without reacting to the camp. Yuan Shao is dead. Gan Ning looked at the man who came out of the Chinese army tent holding the sword, and his heart was overjoyed, and he immediately understood that this was the target he had imagined, and he didn't think about the target he would encounter when he came. The Hengjiang Ferrata threw towards Yuan Shao with an incomparable momentum, and this blow could kill Yuan Shao as long as it hit, but even if the attack was about to hit Yuan Shao, Gan Ning did not notice Yuan Shao's fear at all, and the Overlord's momentum was vividly displayed in front of Gan Ning's eyes. Boom! Yuan Shao was not afraid, but he knew better what he represented, and he also knew that Yang Liang would definitely protect him. Who is coming? Yang Liang picked up Gan Ning's Hengjiang iron cable with a shot, and the blood-colored aura on his body gushed out, and he pounced on Gan Ning with a gun. As long as he held it for a moment, the army would be enough to capture Gan Ning alive. I am a naval general Gan Xingba. Yuan Shao died. Gan Ning sneered. He used a Chimen weapon, not a spear. This thing can turn. And as he spoke, his hands shook, and the tip of the Hengjiang iron cable went towards Yuan Shaozha. Yuan Benchu died. Bang! Seeing that the tip of the Hengjiang iron cable was about to pierce Yuan Shao, Yang Liang was eager to grab the Hengjiang iron cable directly with his hand, controlling the tip to prevent Yuan Shao from being killed by Gan Ning. Damn! Gan Ning shook the iron cable, and a big arc slapped directly on Yang Liang's chest. I didn't want to be blocked by Yang Liang's spear, but I also took this opportunity to take back my Hengjiang iron cable. On the first day of junior high school, Gan Ning found that Yang Liang was in good health, but his strength was really out of his body. Under the protection of Yang Liang, Gan Ning could not take down Yuan Shao at all, and once they fought, even if Yang Liang was sick, it would be difficult to win more than 100 moves, and for so long, he and others would have been killed long ago. Look at the arrows. Although Gan Ning is bold, but not stupid, a crossbow appeared in his hand in an instant and shot at Yuan Shao. Yuan Shao is dead. Seeing the bow and arrow shooting, Yang Liang instantly saved him, and a wall directly swung out of the spear in his hand blocked the arrow, but at the moment when the arrow hit the tip of the gun. The kind of situation where it is easily destroyed. Yang Liang was surprised, only to see that at this time Gan Ning had already caught another arrow in his hand, not at Yuan Shao, but shot at the handsome flag. Bang! With a soft sound,
The handsome flag was broken in response. Gan Ning no longer hesitated, and directly threw out all the kerosene bags on his horseback, and the Hengjiang iron cable in his hand shook. Pierce all the kerosene bags, and then knock on the stones on the ground. A spark appeared, and a flame suddenly burst out to block the two sides, and Yang Liang did not dare to come out lightly to protect Yuan Shao because of the unclear situation, and then Gan Ning no longer hesitated to turn around and leave. Coming and going in a hurry, the entire Yuan Shao camp may have died less than 100 people, but after Gan Ning's evacuation, the entire camp was in chaos. Torches were raised, people were boiling, and the burned place was quickly extinguished, but the entire camp was in chaos.
Ha 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 ha.
Gan Ning led his hundreds of cavalry to stop a mile away and laughed wildly, this time in addition to cutting off a handsome flag, but also pasting hundreds of cattle and horses upside down. In terms of actual results, there was almost none, but it severely frustrated the morale of Yuan Shao's army. 100 cavalry robbed the camp, robbed and killed not the enemy sergeant, but the morale of the other party. The morale of the original victory over Gongsun Zon declined sharply under Gan Ning's sneak attack, and with this sneak attack, Yuan Shao's rapid retreat also became a delusion. Only the battalion can allow Yuan Shao's soldiers, who were full of soldiers after the sneak attack, to return safely. But the time spent by the battalion step by step is far greater than that of a fast march, food, grain, and a blow to hit the weakness. Gan Ning naturally didn't know how much trouble he had caused Yuan Shao by his unintentional actions. He was now proud that he had slapped Yuan Shao in the face, and with this exploit, he also had the capital to brag when he went back. Burning grain and grass or anything like that can't be taken out to boast at all. After all, even most of the enemy has not fought. What is there to brag about? As for this now, Gan Ning can go back and brag about his 100 people fighting Yuan Shao tens of thousands or something.
Let's go. Let's get on the boat and go find Zi.
Ha ha ha, I am a man with tens of thousands of battles. Gan Ning said arrogantly. As soon as he reined in his horse and looked back at his men, he could naturally see that most of his men were smoking and burning, and the horses were lost a lot, but there were no losses in soldiers. You must know that Gan Ning rushed in first. His soldiers were just setting fire. Gan Ning and Yang Liang fought 2 moves, and then retreated directly. Most of the people under Gan Ning had a face-to-face with Yuan Shao soldiers, but if they dragged on another cup of tea, the Yuan Shao soldiers who reacted would be enough to kill all of Gan Ning's subordinates, including Gan Ning. Gan Ning's men giggled. They rushed in with the determination to die, but when they went in, they lost a few kerosene bags, did nothing, and were taken out by Gan Ning before they had time to charge. Naturally they felt very strange about this kind of task, but this sense of heartbeat, this kind of danger walking on the line of death made Gan Ning's men have a feeling of excitement. On the other side, Yuan Shao sat in the first place with a dark face, looking at the losses counted by his subordinates. 31 military accounts were damaged, and 71 people were lost on their own side, of which 11 people were trampled to death, and more than 300 cattle and horses were captured.
You mean that this group of horses is ours?
These people are the Gongsun defeated army who set fire to Handan's grain and grass?
Yuan Shao roared.
Yes, the horses and vehicles have our army's markings on them.
Fengji replied with his head down.
Damn! Give me an order to search for Gan Xingba, who wants to live. Yuan Shao roared angrily, but then the subject changed. Tell him that I need a warrior like him, and a bold and brave soldier like him. Tell him that there is no future in Gongsun Zon, and I, Yuan Shao, welcome his arrival at any time.
The Lord is wise.
The judge sighed and said, what Yuan Shao was doing now was exactly what he was going to tell, and he didn't want Yuan Shao to care about the loss, but instead put his attention on the mighty general.
What is wise? Withdraw overnight. Our time is running out.
If the grain and grass can't support it, if there is no food and grass step by step, when the other party seizes the fighter and gives us a thunderous blow, we will lose and we can't lose anymore. Yuan Shao said helplessly, the good situation was destroyed by the man named Gan Xingba. Why are such warriors not on our side? I have countless good generals in Hebei, but there is too little of this kind of bold and careful unparalleled general.
Let Juan go down and accept the guilt.
Yuan Shao finally added. The whole person looked extremely helpless. After all, the good situation turned into emptiness, and now even going back to himself is a problem. Chapter 229. Let's squat down at Shennong Temple. While Qingju was anxiously waiting for changes in the situation in Jizhou, the second urgent information finally came from Jizhou. Fa was looking at the information, and his originally slightly anxious mood instantly calmed down, and the whole person regained the calm that a strategist should have.
Mr.
Jiao, looking at this information, Gan Xingba lives up to his name as the chief manager. He is indeed the first-class brave general in the world, and his courage and grasp of the fighter are indeed surprising. Fa Zheng took the information to Jioshu to report on the situation in Jizhou recently. Guo Fengxiao had already led his troops to Licheng, with Guan Yu and the new Wei Yang, as well as the professional sword-bearer Zhu Kang and Pei Yuanxiao, who came with him. Jioshu read the information indifferently with a teacup, and then put it down. The whole person did not look frightened at all, still maintained the original calm. In his opinion, Gan Ning's record is probably what Chen Zichuan has been waiting for. After all, Chen Shi delegated power to that extent. Gan Ning will not give a satisfactory answer. It is estimated that Chen Shi's face will not be good. Deliver one to Xuandagong, and then send one to each of those people. The war in Yuzhou is over. I think Tai Shizi and Gan Xingba will solve the remaining troubles in Yuzhou. Jioshu said with a sigh, with Chen Shi calculating in front. It's great that we follow along the way. Jioshu knew very well in his heart, like Chen Shi's ultra-long-term calculation effort could not withstand it for too long. It can be said that it was a little excessive. Even if Chen Shi didn't do anything else, he just tried to suppress the general trend of the world every day, and the labor was enough to hollow out Chen Shi. That is to say, sooner or later he would be exhausted to death, of course. This is when Chen Shi only relied on the information he had to infer. However, this kind of thing is not easy to persuade Jioshu. After all, Chen Shi's current situation has made it clear that he must let Liu Bei reach the top, and he has made it clear that he will not treat himself as a person. As long as Liu Bei has not completely subdued the strength of the world, then Chen Shi will continue to calculate, and he will spare no effort to calculate. Jioshu still admits that Chen Shi's plans are indeed unparalleled, and it is just a short-term solution. But in the long run, Jioshu believed that even if he was suppressed to death, it was too long, and it could take several years for a plan to break out, and no number of variables in the middle could affect it. Jioshu's favorite is this kind of person who is crushed in front of him, and he slips behind him, even if his ability is not weaker than the one who is crushed in front, but he feels very satisfied to be able to follow him. He never felt that there was any point in being the boss. His goal was to hide in the shadow of a certain character and occasionally come out to brush up on his sense of existence. Then he retracted back, asking for a peaceful life. Yes. As long as Yu Zichuan does not die in Gongsun Boisgouet, it is just a joke that Yuan Benchu wants to take Gongsun Boisgouet in a short period of time. Fa Zhang nodded and said, to this extent, everyone knew that Chen Shi's target was Liu Yu. What is he doing now? Has Xian Digong's old house been built? The legendary library has also been built, right, and didn't he let people teach Mangxianglu dance? How has it been lately? Jioshu asked curiously, very curious about Chen Shi's recent work. The old house of Xuandagong has been almost built, and it is said that we need to go to the ceremony when the time comes, and so is the library. As for teaching dance, it's over. It is said that it will be staged when the library opens. Recently, these two Chanzichuan should still be discussing the issue of land yield with Chu Hanmu, but they don't know if there is a result. After 2 days of farming, Zichuan will probably collect the medicinal materials again. Fa Zheng broke his fingers and counted that Chen Shi still had those things to do. In short, it sounded a lot. I heard that Chu Hanmu's planting method has made the entire autumn grain under the rule produce 2 more buckets per acre, right? Jioshu brought the topic to Cookie again. After all, when you are bored, anything can be used as a talking point. Not to mention Cookie's set of grain-growing technology is also a very amazing way. Well, as expected of a professional in the study of grain, I think this kind of person cannot be taken away by other princes, and once the food problem is solved, there will be a rebound. Fa Zhang said solemnly. He had to admit Cookie's ability, and he had now obtained the official identity of Cookie, the head of the Zhou Chu family. Unless you kill this kind of person, he will definitely run around, and killing this kind of person is more troublesome than killing a celebrity. You see, if Cookie really takes out the seeds of his 3.5 stones of grain, next year will be fragrant. You try it. If he really achieves the kind of yield of 4 to 5 stones per mu like he said to Zijian, you just wait for him to stay with Emperor Shennong. A strange smile appeared on Jioshu's face. This kind of person can't be killed. He can die by accident, but he must not die at the hands of those in power. Jioshu finally added, if this kind of person is not born in troubled times, in a prosperous world, then he definitely belongs to the person who the emperor has to salute when he sees it. 4 stones to 5 stones. Isn't that a joke? The face of the law twitched. After all, there are indeed some myths about so much yield per mu. Do you think Chen Zichuan will run to the Cookie every day so idle? If you don't have 50% certainty, Chen Zichuan will never go every day, and the yield is 4 stones per mu. Enough to live in the world. Jioshu said with some emotion, even if the official position is to the extreme, how can it compare to squatting in the temple with Shennong? And the name left in Qing history is compared with this kind of annual sacrifice of 3 livestock and 6 livestock. Just when Jioshu and others were discussing Chen Shi and cookies, Chen Shi had already begun to instill in cookies such a simple thing as sample control. In addition to these, Chen Shi also instilled in cookies the difference between a one-person experiment and a group of trumpet experiments. With a group of trumpets you have a bunch of subordinates. You can open a lot of experimental fields at the same time. You can conduct many experiments at the same time. What originally took 20 years to test may be finished in a year or two, and then you still have a lot of time to continue to improve. After listening to Chen Shi's persuasion, Cookie was good, and soon brought a large number of trumpets and opened a field. This time there were many people, and Cookie was not like the previous one planted only one, but planted all the crops. Oh, measure it every day to see how it grows, and record it, and then compare it with the sample field. Cookie clapped his hands and instantly understood a lot of things. I didn't find that Sichuan is also very researched on agriculture. Come with me to study agriculture, and then we squat in the Shennong temple together. He. I found a place where I can squat. Chen Shi smiled. As this year's weather entered winter, Chen Shi already understood that if he hung up, he would definitely be sacrificed as a dragon king or something similar. Is there a good weather? Keep going. I feel like I'm on a different path. Maybe I can surpass the original level. Cookie didn't care much about Chen Shi's words. He was now listening to Chen Shi's scientific research method with bright eyes. He felt that if he continued to do this, he would be super god. He would work for 50 years. Chapter 230 According to the Intelligence. When Gan Ning's fierce record was sent, Chen Shi was instilling in Cookie the weakness of good seeds or something, and the conclusion of hybridization was a miracle, and he was still instilling Mendel's theory of planting peas into Cookie. Listening to Cookie's eyes lit up, although he had not deliberately studied these things, but as a professional agricultural master who had planted for 7 or 8 years, of course he had seen the strange situation of white flowers growing from the seeds of purple flower peas. I have also seen peas with high poles grow short poles. Sichuan, put aside the intelligence or something, even if my family education is halfway to the top, I know that the current situation in the world, Yu Qingju Taishan has taken the lead. Seeing Chen Shi laughing with the information, Cookie said impatiently, his intelligence is not bad, but he focuses more on farming, and he also has the advantage of bystander Qing in these matters of the princes of the world. That's natural. How can there be any omissions in the plan I personally made? Qingju is in a really good situation now. There is no shortage of money and food, the soldiers are full of food, and they are not afraid of any challenges at all. Because of this, I can talk to you about these things in my spare time. Chen Shi smiled and said, but Gan Xingba really gives face. After Chen Shi finished speaking, he handed the information to Cookie. Look, Gan Xingba is worthy of being the commander of the navy. His courage is indeed majestic, and he has a good grasp of the timing, but it's a pity that it would be nice if he was good at commanding most of them. Jin Wuzu is a perfect person. It has been like this since ancient times, but now the performance of my fellow is probably already extremely eye-catching, with a strength of 300 people to force Yuan Benchu to return to the army, and then 100 cavalry robbed the camp without losing a single person. This time Yuan Benchu was embarrassed and lost a big hair. A quick scan of the Cookie will understand what is going on. Yuan Benchu didn't want to counterattack Yu Ju this time, and the original plan to borrow a knife to kill people and erect himself at the highest peak of morality was also abolished. Chen Shi was stunned. Cookie just glanced at everything clearly. Your guy's material is no longer inferior to that of ordinary strategists. Pouring out the strength of the family for 100 years to support one person, you have to know everything, but... Cookie said with some loss, and then seemed to think of something to sweep away the loss. Let's continue to talk about this so-called basic factor. I must grow a super good variety that combines all the advantages. Chen Shi put the information on the table in the middle of the 2 chairs indifferently, and continued to explain to Cookie the hybrids in the knowledge of middle school biology. Anyway, he doesn't have that much time. Cookie is so interested that he may be very promising in the future, but then again, it takes a long time to instill this kind of thing. What's more, the basics of cookies are not enough. Chen Shi put the information on the table so carelessly, but he didn't know that the princes of the world had been shocked by the end of the Battle of the Boundary Bridge, and the Battle of the Boundary Bridge was destroyed by Gongsun Zhanyo to the rise of Zhu Yi and destroyed the White Horse, and Yuan Shao pursued. Then the peak turned. Gan Ning's strange army suddenly burned Handan, and 100 cavalry robbed the camp, which made the 2 characters of Zhu Yi and Gan Ning, and the others all became supporting roles. Compared with Zhu Yi, who destroyed the White Horse in the field and cut off Gongsun overnight, and Gan Ning, who burned Handan alone and chaotic Yuan camp with 100 cavalry, all the others became supporting roles. The White Horse is strong. This is recognized as strong by all the princes, and Gongsun Zon insisted on dominating the world. As a result, the field battle was carried by Zhu Yi's halberd, and the first death soldier pounced on the direct annihilation, and even the seeds were not left for Gongsun Zon, and that night Zhu Yi led the death soldiers to fight up and directly break the camp and exterminate Gongsun Zon. For this kind of character, everyone can only say one, fierce. Unfortunately, the good situation was burned by Gan Ning, and then he gave Yuan Shao a slap before leaving, and even the handsome flag of the Chinese army tent was cut down, and 100 people went in, and 100 people came out, without injury, and all the princes of Gan Ning had a feeling that that was bold. Of course, if it is just brave and bold, there is nothing to fear. What frightens the princes of the world is Zhu Yi and Gan Ning's ability to capture fighters. These two people's abilities from intelligence are all good at capturing the characters who have lost the fighter, and they are both good at expanding the results. This frightens many people. Amazing courage coupled with the shocking ability to capture fighters. All visionary princes understand that these two people belong to the kind of generals who can do nothing for others, and the brave are fearless with the kind of grasp of fighters, and many dangerous fighters are opportunities for this kind of person to create results. It is precisely because of the big surprise of the Battle of the Boundary Bridge, and the subsequent peak turn, all the intelligence of the princes is to report these two people side by side, even if Gan Ning only has 300 shabby defeated soldiers in terms of intelligence, and Zhu Yi is already a general in charge of an army, and all the intelligence also puts these two people together, because they have all shown their bravery, and they have also shown that they are not inferior to the general, and the only difference is that there is only luck and the Lord. Good birds choose trees to live in. Gongsun Boisguet has such a general who cannot be reused, and he is defeated unjustly. Send someone to the north to contact Gan Ning. Such a wise and brave General Cao Mengde wants it. After Cao Cao read the information, he directly made a decision to dig people. Cao Cao is convinced that the current Yuan Shao is definitely looking for the Gan Ning who ruined his plan everywhere, not to find trouble, but also to win over. After all, the current Gongsun Zon has already reached dusk. Missing this time will soon have a next time, and such a wise and brave general has passed this time. God knows when he will appear next time. Just look at Zhu Yi. Gongsun Zon is not unjustly defeated. The Lord is wise. Zun Yu smiled and said, but compared to that, is there a general lord who wants to try it? As Zun Yu spoke, a touch of jealousy flashed in Cao Cao's eyes. Yuan Shu's IQ was doubled by Zun Yu, Shi Zhizai, Cheng Yu, Chen Kun and a bunch of other people, and finally directly turned his face with Lu Biyu under Wanqing. Looking at that posture, if Cao Cao was not also in Wanqing, the two sides might start a full martial arts campaign under Wanqing. The final ending was naturally destined. Lu Biyu took his men and Yuan Shu to confront each other, and when he left, he couldn't help but snatch a handful of Yuan Shu. Naturally the two sides were very stiff. Yuan Shu no longer had a little tolerance for Lu Biyu, and Lu Biyu also gave birth to kill Yuan Shu and seized the idea of Yuzhou becoming self-reliant, but Yuan Shu was strong after all, and it was not easy for Lu Biyu to win under the continuous army, and to put it badly, Cao Cao's big pit was squatting on the city wall waiting for the two sides to fight, waiting to collect the corpse and pick up the bargain. It's a pity that Lu Biyu is now a source of water and a tree without roots. Even if he snatched a handful of Yuan Shu before leaving, people eat horses and chews every day. Lu Biyu grabbed those grains and grass couldn't last too long, and in desperation, he was ready to turn to war early, and now Lu Biyu secretly proposed to Cao Cao that he was willing to help Cao Cao clean up Yuan Shu, on the condition that Cao Cao give enough food first. As for the possible backlash of himself, Zun Yu is not too worried. As long as the main trunk is strong enough, there is nothing to suppress, and Cao Cao doesn't seem to have to worry about these things as long as he doesn't think about the idea of beating Lu Biyu's concubine Jiao Chan. After all, Zun Yu felt that there were a few of them staring at him, and Lu Biyu wanted to have that ability, and his IQ like Lu Biyu could withstand these people's calculations. 3 months after entering Cao Cao's subordinates, Zun Yu was sure to overhead Lu Biyu, absorb all his soldiers, and Lu Biyu could clean him up if he wanted to. And Shi Zhizai has already said that he can do what he can do to make everyone feel that it is Lu Biyu's fault, including Lu Biyu himself. Chapter 231 Little tricks or something in the end still depends on strength. Cao Cao has always been wary of Lu Biyu, and because of this, he is a little unhappy with Zun Yu's proposal, which he has always trusted. After all, Cao Cao does not have any sense of crisis now. Thinking about Yuan Shu, who had been beating the whole map before, Cao Cao found that he and the other party seemed to be stronger. From commanders to strategists, from generals to soldiers, it seemed that none of them lost to Yuan Shu, and after the fight, he found that as long as he went out and beat Yuan Shu into a lump, there was no problem. As for Jiao Chan, as a wife control, Cao Cao said that he may not have been interested in before, but now he has become Lu Biyu's concubine, he is interested. If Cao Cao, who was still a little worried about the remnants of the Yuan family forces in the past, would have been calm after pinching Yuan Shu for so long. He Cao Mengde already has the qualifications to despise Yuan Shu, not bragging. Don't look at Yuan Shu stationed tens of thousands of troops under Wanqing. To be honest, Cao Cao really didn't take it to heart. If he had to use Yuan Shu to train troops, Cao Cao felt that he could just find a time to beat Yuan Shu like when he was a child, so that the little fat man understood how to behave. It is precisely because of such a comparison that Cao Cao suddenly found that he had become stronger, and it was not ordinary strong, although the foundation was a little unstable, but it was undeniable that as long as he was willing to spend some money, Yuan Shu was definitely not an opponent, and it was not a problem to attack all the way to Runan. After having these thoughts, Cao Cao's fear of Liu Bei was swept away, and looking back, it seems that Liu Bei's attack on Yuzhou before is not under any pressure for him now. The big guys are all about 5 million people, and his brother now occupies Nanyang and Yingchuan and has food, and there is no shortage of soldiers and strategists.
You Liu Xuande have it. I also have Cao Mengde. Why are you afraid of you?
Because of this, Cao Cao, who had beaten Yuan Shu and beat him boldly in recent times, had begun to quietly occupy the Yangzhou land that he had originally abandoned, and Zun Yu was amused and helpless in this regard, and finally could only turn a blind eye. In fact, he and Zun Yu and others also had an idea. That is, it is necessary to test Liu Xuande's combat effectiveness. After all, intelligence alone cannot explain too many problems if you do not fight head-on. Just like Yuan Shu's intelligence seems to be shockingly powerful, but after the real fight. Although Zun Yu said that he didn't want to despise Yuan Shu's combat effectiveness of Yuan Shu's Yuzhou soldiers was really only second-rate. It can be seen that the Jingzhou soldiers who were beaten by Yuan Shu are estimated to be at the level of a second- or third-rate person. Isn't this just a piece of fat? Zun Yu had the idea of occupying Nanyang several times. In the end, Zun Yu still killed this idea, and it was really hard to say that he would occupy Nanyang, facing Yuan Shu and Liu Biao head-on. Although the combat effectiveness shown by Yuan Shu and Liu Biao is now, Zun Yu feels that there is no problem with one enemy and two as long as there is enough grain and grass, but the impact is too great, and Yuan Shu can still make peace with Liu Biao after Yuan Shu is in the middle. So Zun Yu still had the idea of training troops and Yuan Shu in Wanqing. Then he secretly went to Yuan Shu's rule to capture the population and move it to his own rule. Quietly strengthen yourself. Taoguang and obscurity are the king. As for Yuan Shao in Hebei, Cao Cao, who merged Yingchuan and occupied Wanqing, is no longer very worried. He used to be a younger brother, and there are Zhongyang's group of people watching. It is not easy to use. But now, who is afraid of whom? Zhongyang is closer to me. Listen to your command and find trouble with me. Do you think that little shrimp is enough for my fingers? So originally, all the little princes around Cao Cao who were similar to Cao Cao were unlucky. Before they were all Yuan Shao's younger brothers. But now the younger brother Cao Cao is strong enough to grab the position of boss, so this group of wallflowers had to fall to Cao Cao, and as a result, within a few days, the news came that Yuan Shao's boundary bridge had scrapped Gongsun Zon, and in an instant, this group of little brothers was uncomfortable. Cao Cao also had feelings for the thoughts of this group of people, but he didn't take it to heart, although he was still a little jealous of Yuan Shao's strength. But with Zun Yu's analysis, Cao Cao was not worried that Yuan Shao would find trouble for himself. After all, by this time Cao Mengde was no longer the trumpet in front of the Tiger Prison Pass, and now even if Cao Cao's situation is not good, Yuan Shao will vomit 3 liters of blood if Cao Cao kills it. In other words, Cao Cao found that since he occupied Yingchuan and Nanyang, the situation in the 4 directions seemed to have become very favorable after his strength rose, and he didn't need to be as careful as when he squatted in Yangzhou before. Every step needed to be carefully considered for a long time, and now he did what he wanted to do. The big deal was finally solved with his fists, and after testing, his fists were still quite big. Zun Yu and others also discover the changes in Cao Cao, but the momentum of the Lord itself changes with the change of status. If it is said that Cao Cao of Yangzhou before was in the hidden dragon in the abyss and could only obediently accumulate strength, then now Cao Cao has jumped to the sky, and the difference is a recognition. It was not like before. There was a sneak attack to take other people's territory, but to defeat a prince in a dignified manner, and to let go of the princes all the way on the frontal battlefield. Just like Yuan Shao now, the moment he overturned Gongsun Zon, the title of the strongest prince in the north was handed over to him. There is also Liu Bei's overlord of the Central Plains, who defeated the Yellow Turban head-on with 30,000 to 1 million, so he will enjoy that qualification, although this kind of head-to-head war is not liked by the strategists. But every top strategist understands one thing, that is, when a force develops to the limit, this kind of thing must come once. The gap between the Grand Road and the conspiracy huddled behind the back is here, no matter how much the conspiracy is played to the extreme. That is, once you can't step on the stage and can't erect the banner, it will eventually be crushed to dust by others. Only enough strength can gather people's hearts. Like this kind of low-intensity training can only be veterans, too far away from the elite Zun Yu thought. These ideas are condensed together. All the strategists under Cao Mengde are unified. That is, let Cao Cao behave now. Even if he wants to provoke Liu Bei, it is up to him. It is very important to find out Liu Bei's bottom, and it is also very important to fight a tough battle. Liu Xuande's existence has made this group of people feel heavy pressure, fight, and the weight will be at the bottom of their hearts. As for what to do when the time comes to provoke a real fire. For Chen Kun's question, Zun Yu just glanced at the east coldly, and Shi Zhizai gave the answer. There can only be one overlord in this world. Even if there is a real fire, what can be done? But the war after more than 10 years has been opened in advance, and the princes of the world are compared to who is the destiny of heaven. Chapter 232. Please invite someone to the hidden monster. No one on Cao Cao's side knew about Liu Bei's thoughts, and Chen Shi and others did not take Cao Cao's reoccupation of Yangzhou to heart. After all, for Liu Bei now, it is not so much a lack of territory as a lack of people, so he has little interest in the large area of land in Yangzhou, and he has not swallowed Qingzhou, and it is really meaningless to destroy the rhythm to occupy Cao Cao's place, so the eastern part of Yangzhou directly grew grass in 192 years. Jioshu and others unanimously scoffed at Cao Cao's boring behavior. As for whether Cao Cao would come over to provoke trouble, none of this group of people were worried, and they really thought that Yu Jin's army stationed along Mount Tai was a joke? Who is afraid of whom? Although Chen Shi said that he made a fuss every day and did not complete the infrastructure construction, but the wealth of Mount Tai is enough to make everyone envious, although he is unwilling to slow down the speed of development. But as long as Chen Shi is willing, he can take out a hand of money and food and smash it at any time, and will package the Forbidden Legion twice with Yu Cao Mengde to fight back and beat you to the point of vomiting. There is no problem at all. Don't underestimate the elite soldiers who smashed out with money and food. Why does Cao Mengde seem to have some small people's thoughts? Even Yuan Benchu is not as good. Even when Yuan Benchu is in the most dangerous time, he takes into account the interests of the future. How can he play this kind of thing that has no practical meaning? Chen Shi covered his face, seeing Cao Cao's careful move to station the eastern part of Yangzhou and start reclaiming wasteland. He said he could not understand. You must know that in Chen Shi's mind, although Cao Cao is indeed suspicious, he is occasionally inhumane. But the heart, courage, and personal charm are all first class. It can be said that in Chen Shi's view, Liu Bei can suppress Cao Cao in addition to benevolence, and his personal charm is the same as Cao Cao's. The rest are estimated to be crushed. But what is this doing now? Why is even Yuan Shao not as good as Yuan Shao? People Yuan Shao knows how to take risks when he is in the most dangerous time. Why did Cao Mengde go back more and more? Xiaomin thought. Liu Yi was stunned and didn't understand what Chen Shi said. It's just blind and only cares about immediate interests, not the future. Chen Shi explained that for Cao Cao's current performance, Chen Shi felt that it was not in line with Cao Cao's heart. So I secretly mentioned the idea. Well, there is indeed some truth. But Cao Mengde was originally a eunuch. This is normal. The so-called once successful is incoherent. This is the case. If it is said that it was a hero before, now it can only be said that it is a confused nouveau riche. There will be one less opponent in the future. Liu Yi seemed very happy with Cao Cao's current situation. After all, there is one less trouble. Don't underestimate Cao Mengde. If this person's heart is really like this, he will not attract Zun Wenruo and others to join. At most it is a temporary gaffe, and even the current situation is just to confuse us. Before Chen Shi could speak, Joshua expressed his feelings. Just like we can let Xian Degong understand the situation in the world, I don't think Zun Wenruo and others can't do it. They should be letting Cao Mengde's behavior go. Just like Zichuan is doing now. Lu Su nodded after listening to Joshu's analysis, although he was puzzled by Cao Cao's capricious behavior. But he did not make a conclusion, but ordered Yu Jin to strengthen his defense, respond to changes with the same. No matter what Cao Cao did, as long as we were strong enough, we didn't have to worry. Well, I know, but I really hope that Cao Mengde's nouveau riche thoughts hidden in his heart will appear, and it would be best to grab the position of boss with Yuan Shao. That would be better. Liu Yi said with a cheap smile. By the way, I heard that Lu Biyu has rebelled against Yuan Shu recently, and Yangzhou has been empty recently. It's really a good place. Chen Shi looked at Liu Yi speechlessly. This guy didn't know what's going on recently, and had already transferred his hobby for government affairs to the military, and went to find something to do for the princes of the four directions when he had nothing to do for a day. Xiang, see that you have been very idle lately. Come and help me. After Guofeng Xiao left, Fa Xiaoji is not easy to deal with alone. You can see how to save his majesty. Jioshu had a dazzling expression, and he almost put the four big characters Han Dynasty loyal minister on his face. Liu Yi glanced at Jioshu puzzled, and nodded. Now the Han family is still saved, but it is not Liu Xie who is saved, but Liu Bei is saved, so Liu Yi is not cold for the little emperor who saved Chang'an, the Eastern Han Dynasty, an era when the clan is qualified to ascend to the throne. Liu Yi calmly said that he supports Liu Bei. But now Jioshu invited Liu Yi. Liu Yi is not easy to say. After all, it is related to the Han Dynasty. There is such a great righteousness pressing. Jioshu's face is almost written with the four big characters of Han Dynasty loyal ministers, and normal Jioshu is extremely low-key, not speaking at all. Liu Yi can't feel Joshu's pulse. Looking at Joshu's expression, he really thinks he is a Han loyal minister. Joshu laughed. He was very happy to pull a strong man. As for saving the little emperor, this is death. How to save him and Li Yu, Zhuangdegang's subordinates will not have a good time. Therefore, Joshu only suppressed the imperial power under the slogan of saving the scene, and only if the emperor was unlucky enough, the banner of the Han Dynasty of his current boss Liu Bei would be more powerful. Chen Shi glanced at Joshu. Sure enough, Zhou Wenhe was very cautious in doing things, but there was no point in looking for Liu Yi. Liu Yi had no respect for imperial power at all, although this guy's daily performance was worse than writing the 4 big characters of Han loyalty on his face. But Chen Shi, who knew history very well, knew very well that this guy did not have the slightest good impression of Liu Xie at all. Let him save Emperor's Yan. Just kidding. It's no wonder he didn't let Emperor's Yan be unlucky. Look at the group of people under his command, none of them are truly loyal to the Han dynasty. They say that they are united under the banner of the Han dynasty, but in fact they don't take it seriously. Liu Bei and the Han dynasty choose one of the two. This group of people only look at Liu Bei, don't care about the lord of the Han dynasty, internal unity, coordination. Gongyu, have the things I want been built? By the way, there is also Wei Xiao. Where are the metaphysical masters, Taoist scholars, I asked me to find? My jingling hall has been built. Where are the people? When the jingling hall opens, you can't let me go up. This is the place I built as the home of the heroic spirits. Has the requiem song been filled? At that time, the 3 livestock and 6 livestock, and we all need to go to the sacrifice. Wei Xiao, you may be able to halve the activity funds in the future. Chen Shi turned his head and asked Sun Qian and Liu Yang. What he wanted to build was basically done now, and he was sold. I'm looking for it. You don't know how many people you want. I can't cheat. Everyone needs some ability, so it's very troublesome. I asked someone to find Zui Yuan Fang. He has agreed to be the head of the sacrifice, but he asked to find Ji San people and Zishu Master together. The problem is that I don't know where those 2 people are now. Do you know that you travel all over the world? Liu Yang said helplessly. It's not that he doesn't work hard, it's that there are not many strong people. You must know that Liu Yang has always felt that he has enough connections and is looking for a trivial matter. But after inviting Zui Ci, he asked Yu Ji and Master Zishu to invite him, but he couldn't find it. Zui Yuan Fang? Chen Shi's eyebrows jumped. This world is crazy enough. How crazy is Zui Ci? Yes, that old man heard that he is one of the leaders of Taoism, and he is said to be a person who is about to ascend to the clouds. I think our Mount Tai is the place of Longxing of the 3 emperors and 5 emperors, and we have to find a good Taoist priest, so I asked someone to invite me, and they agreed, but I need to let me find 2 people. I didn't find it. Liu Yang said nonchalantly, not knowing what kind of person he had found to sacrifice. Chapter 233. Let's start a new strategic plan. Chen Shi pressed his eyebrows and really didn't know what to say. It's just a sacrifice. Do you want to be so ruthless? Even Zui Ci has been moved. What do you want to do? Okay, come on. Is Zui Yuanfang already on the way to Mount Tai? By the way, you have good connections. Look for Hua Yuanyue in Qiao County. This is also a top figure among the alchemists, and he has found to add some activity funds to you. You are a little shabby now. You must know that you can represent our face. You want scenery. You want luxury. Don't be angry. I will give you a little money in advance first. You make our pomp bigger, and more people will come during the sacrifice. Chen Shi stared at Liu Yang for a long time, and finally decided to give him another task. As for the activity funds or something, as long as Hua Tuo can be found, his medicinal materials can be cashed out. If he is wrong, his medicinal materials can save people. People can create value. Just a small amount of activity funds. Drizzle. Ha ha ha. This matter is on me. Liu Yang now has friends all over the Han dynasty, and they are all Clearstream celebrities, and those in power can only turn a blind eye to friends. So for him, the money is not spent, and now Liu Yang has become accustomed to this kind of life of spending money like water, and it is completely impossible for him to invite 3 or 5 friends to cook some wine and eat green beans at home as before. I'll give you a note when I go back. You can take it and take 30 million money. Just find Hua Yuanyue for me. As for Yu Jisan and Zishu Master, that kind of people will appear if they are willing to appear, and if they don't want to appear, it's useless for us to look for them anymore. They may be average, and Peekaboo is still very good at it. Chen Shi said and began to pull a note to give Liu Yang money, and by the way, he lowered the style of the scattered immortals in the Legend of the Gods. It was a good fate and became a peekaboo. Hey, Zichuan, did you give too much? $30 million. I'll go. You really approved 30 million. Can Wei Xiao spend it? Lu Su originally heard that Chen Shi approved the money to Liu Yang and didn't take it seriously at all. 1 million money was enough for Liu Yang to spend for a while, and it was really drizzle for the current $1 million in Taishan, but when he heard that Chen Shi approved 30 million yuan, he was instantly uneasy. It's drizzling. As long as you can find Hua Yuanyue, $30 million is drizzle. $300 million is drizzling, as the only character who can still use you after tearing it up, as long as you can catch Taishan. Lead a group of students well, and the army's battle loss rate will drop by half is not blown. Chen Shi instantly stamped the seal and handed it to Liu Yang without giving Lu Su a chance to intercept it. He was not joking. After all, there were not many ancient soldiers who died directly in battle. More is that the treatment is not timely. These soldiers have all been on the battlefield. As long as you are alive, you can be called an old soldier, and the experience of personally fighting more than a dozen pawns who have not died is no joke. Just train and integrate twice, and change a piece of equipment to go out and brag that this is a certain elite corps, and it is also genuinely combat effective. Like the kind of veteran soldier who has really moved to battle dozens of times and has not died, as long as he is not the type to run away without seeing the enemy, it is enough to catch anyone to do grassroots carders, and they know how to kill the enemy on the battlefield to protect themselves. As long as a large-scale medical soldier can be formed, enough veterans can be retained. That's really fun. A veteran may not be able to beat 5 recruits, but 10,000 veterans will definitely make 50,000 recruits understand that you are weak. Thinking about the cost of training 500 recruits to the battlefield, and then calculating the loss rate, as well as combat effectiveness, Chen-Shi felt that he still raised 30 medics and 300 veterans of 100 battles, and there was absolutely no pressure to fight recruits. Moreover, the depreciation rate is low, the combat effectiveness is high, and the settling-in fee is not expensive. Are you sure that the value of Hu Yuan is so much? Lu Su raised his eyebrows. He was not because he gave Liu Yang too much money. 30 million yuan still couldn't shake him. A few days ago he was also regarded as a young and dashing rich man with a net worth of more than 100 million yuan. He had already received Mount Tai from his grandmother, ready to find a good family girl to start a family and expand the Lu family. With him, you can ignore the plague. I think it's worth it. Chen-Shi said solemnly. In order to cope with next year's plague, Chen Shituan's number of herbs is already very amazing. Not to mention that only hundreds of thousands of people were affected by the disaster in history, and now even if the entire Qingju is affected, Chen-Shi can resist, and he doesn't know what medicine he wants, so he collects all kinds of medicines, and the ginseng has saved enough for hundreds of thousands of people to have one plant. As for the rest, it is calculated with a warehouse. And millions of people scrape the land during the slack of farming, and the power is simply crazy. Chen-Shi's words are not a joke, ignoring it, but the biggest plagues and typhoid fever after 192 years were finally suppressed, which was actually the ability of Hua Tuo and Zhong Zhongjing. Although Zhong Zhongjing was the only one left in the family of the typhoid pit, it is undeniable that after his crazy research, he suppressed the typhoid fever that was ravaging Jingyang, and Hua Tuo belonged to the situation where there was a plague to find death, which is why Chen-Shi couldn't find Hua Tuo. This uncle's standard residence has no fixed place, and now there is no big plague in the world, God knows where he is. As for finding Zhong Zhongjing, forget it, people don't leave Jingju now. He won't leave Jingju before he finds out the special medicine for typhoid fever, and he won't leave Jingju until he writes the theory of typhoid fever and miscellaneous diseases, and the consequences caused by the whole family being killed by typhoid fever are this person who vowed not to go out of Jingju if he didn't extinguish typhoid fever. It is said that people really killed typhoid fever in 200 years, and then ignored the ancient Chinese method of passing on the whole book to the world, and then Hua Tuo gave an evaluation after reading it. This is really a living book. In a word, Zhong Zhongjing is basically enchanted now, going all out towards a goal, wanting to let the other party get out of Jingju, unless you can put down typhoid fever. But unfortunately Chen-Shi has no impression of how to treat typhoid fever. It seems that this thing similar to the plague has been crushed by Zhong Zhongjing for more than 1,000 years, and it is still being crushed now. Oh. Lu Su nodded, although Chen-Shi was sometimes unreliable, but he was about half sure to open his mouth, half of which ignored the plague certainty and spent $30 million to try. Lu Su felt it was worth it. What's more, the medical soldier plan Chen-Shi has been engaged in for so long and has been equipped with a small number of troops. This plan is more promising in Lu Su's view, a proper soldier elite plan, very interesting, much less than the pile of strong soldier training plans proposed by Yu Jin. The effect is much better, so it is not stopping Chen-Shi, as long as this plan produces 100,000 veterans of hundreds of battles. Lu Su dares to instigate Liu Bei to challenge the quartet. Well, since this plan is fine, let's move on to the next one. Chen-Shi said with a solemn face, and then took out a stack of plans from the paper bag on the side, and in an instant, everyone who was originally giggling looked straight. Chen-Shi didn't have much time to take out the plan, but every time it was a long-term plan. Is there any big move to start this time? Our previous work is not finished yet. Don't burden us. All the civil servants present have such an idea. Chapter 234. Let's restructure. In order to maintain the prosperity and security of the rule, to avoid the aging of the soldiers, and to avoid the tragedy of father and son going into battle together. Lu Su opened the plan. The beginning is such a paragraph, fake emptiness. Chen-Shi's favorite thing to do is this kind of opening, extremely justice, setting himself on the commanding heights of morality, and then even if he loses when fighting, he is still glorious even if he is defeated, and he is also a fighter for the people. It is equivalent to saying that we are going to disarm now. After reading it, Lu Su asked a little dumbfounded. There is a problem with the brain at this time. Disarmament? Chen-Shi glanced at Lu Su contemptuously. Which of your eyes did you see that I said I wanted to disarm? I saw both the left and right eyes. Lu Su glanced at Chen-Shi and didn't care about his provocative behavior. Zijing, Sichuan means to Tibetan soldiers and people, to solve the worries of his injured soldiers without increasing too much expenses, and by the way, secretly expand the ranks of soldiers, and give each city enough soldiers. But if Sichuan you do this, many elite soldiers will lose their combat effectiveness because of the field. Jioshu saw through the essence of Chen Shi's actions at a glance. Don't worry, I will organize those veterans over 32 years old, who have been discharged from the army without disability and have participated in more than 10 battles, and let them patrol in specific cities. After all, these people have been fighting for so long and should enjoy life, and you didn't find that Fengao has been a little chaotic because of the more merchants recently, and now it needs elite-level troops to suppress it. Chen Shi explained with a smile that the military service time must be shortened to 15 years. This will indeed not lead to a decline in combat effectiveness, and then give a 1,000-man commander. The entire army is not so much a pension as a hidden elite. Liu Yi touched his chin and said, always feeling that something was wrong with the city management and patrol brigade. Let me tell you the whole plan in its entirety. That plan was completely used by me to fool others. Chen Shi casually took Lu Su's plan back and stuffed it into his paper bag. Listen carefully. Lu Su said with a smile, and everyone else nodded, and even Man Chong, who was dealing with the criminal law on the side, stopped the pen in his hand. First of all, this military service is inhumane now. 15-year-old children want it, and they don't want it when they are 18 in the future. Lu Su will go and get me a brand. The beggars under the age of 15 were caught and handed over to the government for direct education, teaching them life skills, and 16 years of education after 3 years of education. After less than 3 years of education, she was kicked out, and the woman was handed over to Xianglu. Chen Shi first showed his great resentment. To be honest, when I saw Chen Shi, a 14-year-old boy in the army, I wanted to roar, do you still have humanity, and you want to throw it out? As a result, the other party said that only the army like him can make a living. At least when he goes to the battlefield, he can still have a full meal. Even if he dies, he is a full ghost, and this job is still recruited by the old soldier who can't help his plea after recruiting people. Since then, Chen Shi has secretly made up his mind that sooner or later he will arrest all the little beggars in Taishan, Qingju for re-education, and raise you until you are 16 years old. I don't care what you do, but before the age of 16, the man rolled me to the school to study. The woman went to the fragrant building to learn the female read, piano, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Commercial agriculture, poetry, and songs can be anything anyway. But there must be no beggars. I don't believe it when I am 16 years old after 3 years of education, and it is not a problem to support myself. After Chen Shi finished speaking, everyone's eyes looked at Chen Shi a little strange. The man grabbed it and handed it over to the official education, although it cost money, but it was not a problem for Taishan Qingju, and the woman handed it over to Xianglu this. You bastards think too crookedly. How many of us can teach girls their life skills here? Cai Wenji? Who else? Who else is good at those things besides there? Chen Shi glanced at the group of people in front of him contemptuously, and each of these bastards had been there. This is feasible. Men either teach martial arts, or teach literature and history, or teach skills. As for the cost of Mount Tai, it is not too big, but in this case, the people under the rule also need to do this, and the cost is a little too much. Lu Su agreed to Chen Shi's proposal after thinking about it. Those who are caught do not pay money, but they need to be repaid in the future. As for how to repay it, it is up to you. As for the people under the rule, you can also not pay money, but you also need to repay. In short, don't lose. Yuzhou has caught so many scribes and should create value for us. Chen Shi said casually. These things are in place in one step for Lu Su to think about. This method is good. It is equivalent to giving them a chance. As for repayment, how can they take it back when they prosper? Liu Yi nodded and said. The service period is too long, and the same 60 old men are in the army as before, which is combat effectiveness. Chen Shi pulled back to the original topic. 32 years old did not reach the team rate. 35 years old did not reach the centurion. Directly sent out of the military, delegated to the local area for reorganization, and paid according to the number of battles and positions. Yes, it makes sense for the lower echelons of the army to remain at their most combative time from the age of 18 to 32. Jioshu nodded. In fact, in Jioshu's opinion, if Dun can eat as much as he does now, the combat effectiveness of a 40-year-old veteran soldier will not be bad. In addition to the pension, the disabled soldiers will be promoted to join the Tuncheon soldiers after returning to their hometowns, do not participate in the Tuncheon, and only carry out the management and training of the Tuncheon soldiers. That is to say, the corporal will lead 10 Tuncheon soldiers when they return to their hometowns with disabilities, and this kind of Tuncheon soldiers, mainly villagers, will be led by the corporal when they are idle, and teach battlefield experience, from which they will be elected as commanders, and once they need to be directly incorporated into the army. Chen Shi continued. He wanted to cut off the worries of this group of Taishan soldiers this time. Our Tuncheon soldiers are much larger than the regular army, and raising one level is not a problem. this is feasible. Liu Yi understood after a little calculation that the Tunchen soldiers were several times that of the regular army, and the disability rate was not a problem at all. When time goes by, the extra wounded and retired choose to be incorporated into the academies everywhere that have participated in the war more times, and they cannot be made marquises without military merit, telling them to go to the battlefield to learn martial arts first. The pure masters must establish their glory on the battlefield. Chen Shi has made up his mind to inject a kind of defense of the country into the students of the academy. Dying on the battlefield is an honor, and the scars left by the masters on the battlefield are the belief of military merit medals. Although the martial spirit of the Han dynasty is terrible enough, Chen Shi feels that it is necessary to make it more terrifying. If the world is an enemy, the world will be destroyed, and the road of the king will always be lonely, and he does not need friends, and he will run over if he is not convinced. The king holds the highest military power, and civil officials need to obtain the position of the 3 dukes and 9 ministers to obtain the position of marquis, and non-military merit cannot be made a marquis. In this way, every civil servant in a high position has truly seen the battlefield and understands the cruelty of the battlefield. It is not the civil officials who go to the battlefield to fight, but the understanding of the civil officials on the battlefield in those months, the months of eating and living together, the months of seeing the death of their subordinates one by one, and the months without any calculations, just to defeat the enemy. Even if the civil officials go to gilding, they understand when to reach out and restrain, and when to let the generals go. Chapter 235 Restructuring. Restructuring, restructuring. If this is in the era of the scholar officials of the Song dynasty, it will definitely be drawn to death, and if it is in the era of the Ming dynasty, when military attachés were automatically demoted to 2 ranks in the face of civil officials, the person who said this sentence would definitely be sprayed to death. This is also why the later dynasties have all kinds of black sentences. Without him, the scholar officials are in power. You can't let the military attaché come to power. The corrupt Confucian is always right, and the military general is always inferior. This is the atmosphere to be created in later generations. So later generations are all hanged and beaten, and the corrupt Confucian scholars are all kinds of brushing and fracturing offline. Don't starve to death in peace. Imitate the mantis can be said. What can I say about the integrity of the corrupt Confucianism? However, this period has not yet reached the time when civil officials are in power, from the head of the Qin dynasty to the military merit of the Han dynasty. In a word, there is no pure civil servant in this era, which one has never been on the battlefield. Ban Chao can go to the battlefield with a pen. Li Jian dropped the letter and turned back from a civil official to an excellent military general. And there was no separation between civil and military in this era. The importance of the 6 arts of the gentleman is not weaker than the rites and music at all. The Han dynasty is provoked. A certain censor can become a general when he turns back. In this era, Shangwu has been engraved into the bone marrow. Literacy may be very few, but there are a lot of people who can fight. After all, if you want to be a marquis, you have to prepare to go to the battlefield. As for the scars that Chen Shi said even if they were glorious, these strategists who had been on the battlefield also felt something and nodded. Next is the jingling hall, and the name of every soldier who died on the battlefield must be engraved on the stele in front of the hall. The 4 seasons are determined by. We wait for sacrifices. 3 livestock and 6 livestock cannot be missing, and the etiquette is the same as that of the princes and kings. This can be used as the final destination of all soldiers of our army. Chen Shi pulled the topic back to the original path, giving the living benefits and glory to the dead, so that they had no worries about life and no worries about death. Although it is a bit out of limit. Man Chong and Liu Yi looked at each other and muttered a little, but the reason? It should be okay. Don't mention exceeding the limit. Even if some things exceed the limit, everyone will turn a blind eye. Chen Shi waved his hand and said. He didn't take this kind of thing to heart at all. If it weren't for the fact that he was really afraid that it would be too big to step down, Chen Shi would want to sacrifice with a grand ceremony to worship the heavens, and what he wanted was that kind of glory. In the Han dynasty, the era of faith, that glory was enough to make too many people at the bottom throw themselves into this flame like moths. Sichuan continues to talk about your plan. You should have a complete system. The deceased himself has already said, now it should be the placement of the living, or something. Jioshu waved his hand. For a person like him, exceeding the limit is nothing at all. As long as he is safe enough, he can despise everything. Well, families who died in battle. The family is exempt from agricultural tax until the eldest son is 18 years old, and one son in the family can enter the official government for compulsory study. Free within 3 years. No matter what you learn, as long as he has the ability to finish learning, he is powerful. Chen Shi said with a natural expression. These things were built by him little by little, and now it was finally time to use them. The expense is not big, but it is very valuable. But what should I do if the eldest son is 18 years old? Lu Su asked a very interesting question. Chen Shi was stunned for a moment, and then thought that this is not a later generation, the eldest son is really very likely to be 18 years old, even if there is a system of retirement, but it is inevitable that some people will die in the 33, 4, or 5, and there are many people at the bottom of the people in this era who are 13 or 4 or 5 married, and it is really not a problem to have an 18-year-old son. Well, that's right, if the eldest son is 15 years younger, in addition to the 5-year pension he repays, according to the age of the eldest son, he will make up for 3 months of the fallen salary for each year younger.
Chen Shi thought for a while and said,
exempted from agricultural tax, supplemented with a certain salary, and a 5-year pension, plus 3 years of education to manage food and housing, the child can almost make money after spending the money. In other words, it is not that he doesn't want to give more, the main reason is that there are too many people involved in this kind of pension. Once you make a wish, you have to do it, otherwise the military morale will be unstable.
Then it will be a big trouble. After all, the money in circulation in Chen Shi's hands is not unlimited.
The pension is 5 years. Well, I thought Sichuan would give 10 years according to the previous practice, but I didn't expect it to be given only 5 years. Lu Su smiled and said, in fact, when Chen Shi mentioned the pension, Lu Su was ready to give a pension of 10 years, but unexpectedly, Chen Shi only gave 5 years, which was a bit unreasonable.
Well, the first pension is 5 years. Chen Shi said indifferently. So there is a second stroke?
Lu Su was suddenly helpless. Chen Shi made a lot of money, but he also spent a lot of money. The first pension is paid to his wife. If the wife continues to raise her children, then the wife can officially receive half of her husband's annual salary every year. This salary lasts for 10 years, and the government has a suitable odd job for female workers when these wives have priority. 10 years later, if the age of their son is less than 15, it will be increased to 15, and the disabled veterans who return to their hometowns at the same time have the right to supervise, and the supervision official has.
Chen Shi glared at Lu Su, and then said with a smile, sure enough, you still have to send enough.
Lu Su sighed and said, he knew that Chen Shi would not treat those people badly, sure enough. This method is good. Presumably the benefits of those disabled soldiers, as well as the benefits of veterans, are paid annually, and they are also issued together, with comrades in arms and fellow villagers to safeguard this interest. Liu Yi touched his beard and said with great satisfaction, Chen Shi considered almost everything he could. Well, only these retired soldiers can guarantee their own interests, and retired soldiers who are not seriously disabled can be given priority to transfer to the Yamen, so that their own interests can be more easily guaranteed. Chen Shi nodded and said, he still has some experience in checks and balances. As for the elite soldiers that when he said before are their guarantee, the city management and patrol team can be purely an elite team composed of veterans who have experienced hundreds of battles and have been discharged from the army without disabilities at the age of about 35, and only carry out patrols within the city and garrison the Jingling Hall. I don't believe it. There is such a team comparable to the level of guards.
Whoever dares to reach out for this money, they will naturally chop off each other's hands. Benin, I recommend you to sign up then.
When Chen Shi said this, his eyes were cold, and he didn't believe it, and there were still people who dared to reach out under the suppression of this purely violent army.
This is no problem.
Man Chong nodded. He knew what Chen Shi was doing for him such a unit, although it was nominal, but that kind of deterrence was not a joke. He needed this deterrence as a cool official. By the way, all veterans, whether they are discharged due to injuries or due to age, will be pulled to the Jingling Hall to burn incense and then go back, and the new enlistees will also be pulled to the Jingling Hall to offer incense, and then they will be assigned to various legions after the incense is burned. All in all, my goal is to keep the incense of Jingling Hall. Chen Shi stood up and looked solemnly at the sky outside the door. His goal was to cast a spirit, an endless martial spirit, until it was engraved into the soul. Chapter 236. This situation still needs to be stabilized. After the general direction is done, there are too many people to do the details. For example, Lu Su now accepts the plan with a helpless face. He and Chen Shi have worked together for so long, he knows one thing. Chen Shi generally engages in a general direction, and Chen Shi will not do this kind of troublesome thing to fill in the details, mainly relying on him. The rest is just waiting for the Jingling Hall and the library to be built. Chen Shi stretched his waist, and this year's things were finally done before the end of the year. Then should we report this plan now, or wait a few more days until the meeting in 10 days to report it to the Lord? Lu Su looked at Chen Shi and asked. He didn't know if Chen Shi wanted to do it quickly or gradually promote it. Report it. Recently, because the business boom has been a little chaotic, our city management is short of manpower, so it's better to report it now. Xiang, you give Yun Chan a ventilation. Her, Ida will leave it to you. Zilong Zijing can handle it. The rest of the generals will be persuaded by me. Chen Shi thought about it for a moment and felt that this kind of thing was better as soon as possible. No problem. The three of them all nodded. After all, they were all people who had worked together, and there was no problem with Chen Shi's distribution. As for the matter of not notifying the generals to start work directly, Chen Shi felt that it was better not to do it, although it was compulsory, but it would not be good to let the civil officials and military attachés not look at each other. You must know that the thinking of many military generals in this period is stuck at the level of having enough troops and strong enough. And it is not a problem for this kind of behavior of dismissing soldiers to be included in the tiger's mouth. Gong Yu stays, the others will deal with their own affairs as soon as possible. I'm going to go to the library to open the back door in a while. Chen Shi waved his hand to signal that the group could dodge, leaving only one Sun Qian. Most of the people present bowed their hands and were ready to leave with a ha-ha or something. Most of this group of people had their own places to deal with government affairs, and they just signed into the government office, and this group of people didn't like to stay in the government office when the weather turned cold. Sichuan has anything to order? Sun Qian asked carefully after everyone left, without the gags of acquaintances. Chen Shi is difficult to deal with, especially when there is no bottom at all. Gong Yu can sit down, nothing big, just ask. Do you have any experience in the landmark buildings you built? I plan to let people build roads throughout Qingju to every township. I would like to ask how many people will be needed to complete this task at the end of next month. After all, it will be idle soon, and there is no shortage of people. Chen Shi signaled that Sun Qian didn't need to be so restrained, he just wanted to know the current situation of infrastructure construction. If you rush the construction period, there is no limit to the number of people, and the entire Qingju farming and idle people will be mobilized. The construction of the main road can be completed within a month, and as for the lead to the village, one is that the prepared building materials are not enough, and the construction is too difficult, and it takes a lot of water grinding. The other is also that the construction period is not enough, and it is about to enter winter, covered with ice and snow, and it is too difficult to build roads. Sun Qian did not answer the impression of building those landmark buildings, but only talked about the construction of roads, and it can be seen that the construction of those money-burning buildings has caused Sun Qian to still be heartbroken so that he has not recovered. Oh, since this is such a month, I will repair all the main roads. The township level gave up first, but the main road did not say to repair to the west to Chen Liu. You repaired it to Yinping for me. Let Cao Mengde know the gap between the two of us, and don't let him have troublesome thoughts recently. Chen Shi frowned and said, but it was about the same as he estimated. This is still Qingju has a lot of people now, otherwise it would be slower. I haven't stopped for a year, and I don't need to build to the Bohai Sea to the north, but I must build to Liqing and go south directly to Zhuzhou City. You can slow down to the east. Chen Shi said with a fierce face. Although he did not take the princes of the four directions to heart, he would never allow the princes of the four directions to make trouble. Chen Shi knew very well that as long as it was 1 year, as long as 193 years passed, the initial material hoarding was completed, and after the natural disasters in 194, Liu Bei could compete for hegemony in the world as long as he did not make mistakes, and in this last year, Chen Shi would never allow any chess pieces to disrupt his layout. Originally, according to his design, 192 should be the time to cultivate life and recuperation, and develop well, but first he was fat and beaten the yellow turbans, but fortunately, he was fast and didn't lose much to make a fortune, and then he was dragged into the water by Cao Cao to beat Yuan Shu, which was not bad, and he made a lot of money. It doesn't look very good, but Chen Shi knows very well that this is actually a symptom of the instability caused by his misestimation of the strength of both sides. The yellow turban is just that. After all, there is Chen Shi's calculation in it. You must know that Chen Shi was originally holding the veteran who abolished Yangju with the hand of the yellow turbans, helping Cao Cao to become the governor of Yangju, giving an empty shelf, dragging Cao Cao to half-death, and eating the yellow turban army in Taishan to absorb and grow, and turning Cao Cao into a tragedy without soldiers and food, and the chaos under the rule, and the aristocracy is still making trouble. This itself is a yarn conspiracy. As Chen Shi estimated, the yellow turbans destroyed Liu Dai, and by the way, all the only veterans in Yangju were destroyed. Zhong Miao and Chen Gong helped Cao Cao to ascend to the throne, and then handed over a mess with nothing but a false name to Cao Cao, and by the way, Cao Cao's spring plowing was abolished. It can be said that before Cao Cao dragged Liu Bei into the water, everything followed Chen Shi's script and then left, but when Chen Shi didn't pay attention, he was dragged into the water by others, and then when he swam back to the shore, Cao Cao had already grown, and the growth was bigger than in history. Is there any mistake? Because of this, Chen Shi's vigilance against Cao Cao has involuntarily improved, and he no longer has the previous mentality that I can crush you to death if I grow up, and now Chen Shi has turned to Cao Cao, I will beat you first, and then develop and grow. After all, Zun Wenruo's hand was too ruthless before, and sure enough, the guys who aspire to the world are not simple goods. To beat the surrounding princes, you can't shoot directly. After all, that kind of practice is too variable. Chen Shi had to make it clear that the combat effectiveness deterred this group of bastards. After all, there is a saying that is still very reasonable. The nuclear weapons on the artillery rack are far more deterrent than the ones released. With such an idea, Chen Shi is ready to deeply demonstrate the combat effectiveness of Liu Bei's side, as well as the degree of domestic wealth. It is precisely because of this idea that Chen Shi plans to fill in some details, and sometimes some plausible fake information will make some wise men associate too many things with a lot of real strength, and this is what Chen Shi is doing now. Instead of letting those spies probe everywhere, Chen Shi felt that it was better to be open and honest and directly shock all these bastards. A little bit of investigation makes you feel a little shocked every time, and it directly scares you all at once. Chen Shi didn't believe it, no matter how this trick could win him a year and a half. Anyway, when Chen Shi got married, the princes from all over the world would send people to watch the ceremony, whether it was to spy in the name of watching the ceremony, or to win over Liu Bei in the name of watching the ceremony, or to form an alliance under the banner of watching the ceremony. Anyway, Chen Shi knew that as long as he got married, the princes who sent people to return the gift were absolutely complete, and this moment was precisely the best opportunity for Liu Bei to show his strength. The rich territory is desirable, but the powerful military power will definitely make others cringe, and when the two are combined, the power that bursts out is enough for the princes of the world to weigh it. As long as he wins until next year, Chen Shi is sure to push Liu Bei to the top. Chapter 237 Chen Shi, I can't fulfill this lie. Can you keep a low profile? After sending Sun Qian away, Chen Shi was not interested in continuing to stay in the Government Affairs Hall. Anyway, those lower-level officials behind the Government Affairs Hall Chen Shi could not know much, and besides, there were still some people who were going to go to the wild after the year-end evaluation. Chen Shi was too lazy to get involved with them. When he was hacked, this group of people was the main force. It was obvious that Chen Shi was not the master of repaying grievances with virtue. According to Chen Shi's habit, the first thing after get off work, no matter whether there is anything on the body, is there anyone next to you who goes home first, signs it up and then goes out for a walk, so that at least Chen Lan and Fan Jian will not worry. Master, you're back. Butler Chen opened the door with a smile and said, Butler Chen has now completely changed his job to become a janitor. I'm back. There's nothing wrong with the family. Chen Shi asked casually. Mrs. Lan asked me to inform the master to come back and go to her. Butler Chen rarely mentioned Chen Lan. Most of the maids in the past were how the maid was today, or Fan Jian broke something again, or Fan Jian learned to cook again. Okay, I'll go take a look. It's rare for Lana to let me go to her. Chen Shi was a little curious. You must know that Chen Lan is simply incredible, abiding by all the rules of the concubine. No matter how much Chen Shi is pampered, he did not expect to inform Chen Shi to pass. The old man also rests more, and when he opens the door to pick up things, he will leave it to the nursing home. Okay, Butler Chen said very respectfully. Forget it. Let it be. Chen Shi turned around and waved his hand. Butler Chen is now just such a little hobby. It doesn't matter. Click. A soft sound. Chen Shi pushed the door in, and sure enough, Chen Lan was still resting lazily in the boudoir, and the two maidservants saw Chen Shi come in and bowed gently and lightly ready to exit. Chen Shi motioned for the two maids to wait outside the door, saying that Chen Lan was speechless about Chen Lan's work and rest time of about 14 hours a day. Most of them didn't wake up during the day, they were listless, and they were lazy in the few hours they woke up, holding a book and flipping through their heads. As for how much they could look in, they didn't know. Thinking about the past, when Chen Shi was seriously ill, Chen Lan was incredibly shrewd and capable. Looking at Chen Lan now, I can't see the personality of the past at all, and sure enough, people are forced out. Without the pressure of life, it exposes one's true nature. But well, it's also a good thing for a 20-year-old girl to lazily do what she loves every day. Chen Shi sat on the edge of the bed and pinched Chen Lan's face. He knew very well how Chen Lan slept for 7 or 8 hours a day. Just a little tossing twice to wake up. Chen Shi pinched his face twice. Chen Lan withered and pulled out one of her arms from the quilt, shook it swayingly. The pink gauze slipped from her wrist to her elbow, and did not hit the small bug, and then her arm fell as if she was weak. Her eyelids shook twice, and there was no movement again. Chen Shi looked at Chen Lan speechlessly, lazy to this extent. He reached into the quilt and pinched it twice. In an instant, Chen Lan woke up holding the quilt, seeing that it was Chen Shi who breathed a sigh of relief, put the quilt down again, stretched out her hand and rubbed her eyes, and shouted to Chen Shi softly with sleepy eyes, I have seen my husband. As he spoke, he knelt on the bed and bowed to Chen Shi. But looking at the fact that his head didn't want to be lifted up when he was under the quilt, he knew that this guy still wanted to sleep, and the moment he got up, it seemed to be pressed by gravity, and it was like being hit by a slow. That action was called a slow, but Chen Shi sat on the edge of the bed, and the tulle pajamas made Chen Lan look at everything she could see so much. Chen Shi also stretched his waist. Sure enough, sleepiness is contagious. Every time he saw Chen Lan's lazy situation, Chen Shi himself was a little sleepy, but he still remembered what he was doing to wake up Chen Lan. Lana, what did you ask me to do with you? Chen Lan's whole person was a little unresponsive, and it took a long time for the whole person to react, and then his thinking began to be active. My wedding dress is embroidered. Chen Lan looked at Chen Shi with red cheeks, her eyes shining. Chen Shi was stunned and said in disbelief, I remember you were resting every day. When did you embroider? Look. Chen Lan took out a box from under the bed, took out the entire wedding dress, bit her lower lip and hesitated for a while, then lowered her head with red cheeks and whispered, I've embroidered it. Chen Shi touched the fine stitches on Chen Lan's wedding dress. Thursday, looking at Chen Lan's nervous and worried blushing look, he didn't understand what Chen Lan was waiting for, and hugged Chen Lan. Don't worry, I promise you, nothing less. Wait for me to marry in a wedding dress when the time comes. Chen Lan's mosquito-like voice appeared in Chen Shi's ears, and finally she caught up. Chen Lan is very well behaved to Chen Shi to soothe for a while, chatting and sleepy, and then fell asleep. Sure enough, there is no psychological pressure at all, and there is not much asterisk. The most suitable for Chen Lan is this kind of leisurely and lazy life, lazily living every day, eating and dressing without worry. Naturally there is a husband to solve, I just need to be lazy to do what I love. On the other side of the city, Liu Bei's hometown. Now Liu Bei is covering his heart and taking Liu to look at the courtyard that Chen Shi claims to have only been renovated, looking at the glittering walls, looking at the translucent windows, looking at the floor that can almost reflect his own. Liu Bei feels that his heart is broken. This can be built for $1 million? Xuan de Gong? Liu looked at Liu Bei with an indifferent face and asked. In fact, his heart was also turbulent and rolling. That pile of materials with ash and now are not the same thing at all. Okay, now these golden and dazzling things and the previous pile of things dragged out of the ash soil are completely two things. Wenru, tell me that this mansion and courtyard are really only $1 million? Liu Bei pressed his heart and said with a twitch on his face. He understood why Chen Shi wanted Sun Qian to cover it before he finished covering it, and he had been prevented from covering it long ago. It's probably really $1 million. Liu said indifferently that he didn't believe it. This house couldn't be sold for 500 million yuan. Liu felt that he could throw himself into the river. Chen Shi played too much. He couldn't go on at all. Fools could see the value of this house. Your sister, the sun shines, the whole house is like you are shining. Let's go. Go see the library and the jingling hall. If it doesn't have the level of my house, no matter what you say, I will tear him down. Liu Bei said with a dark face. He likes to wear gorgeous costumes, like to play dogs and horses, and sing and drink drunken songs, which can be regarded as a little arrogance and lewdness. But it is a little arrogant and lascivious, and now Chen Shi's behavior really scared Liu Bei. Chapter 238. A group of guys who have never seen the world. Liu knew very well that this lie could not be fulfilled. This was too obvious. Now looking back and thinking about what Chen Shi told him, this was all caused by the soil and sand system. Liu followed Liu Bei, carefully wiped a handful of sweat. Why did he believe it at that time? The materials and the final objects are completely different things. The ability of the craftsman is important. The slag craftsman is enough to destroy the god-level materials. The god-level craftsman is enough to turn decay into magic. And the craftsmen who built Liu Bei's hometown are naturally masters selected by millions of people. Even if the helpers are left elsewhere, they are outstanding. So the final result is that this group of people performed the materials handed over by Chen Shi to the fullest. And then Sun Qian was the first to feel dizzy, and Liu Bei, who was supposed to come over to inspect the goods, felt heartache. There is no way to lie, but Liu is still very satisfied with the building itself, living in the place, raising its spirit. This kind of Liu still approves, saying that if he could build a room of this level for Dong Zhuo, Liu felt that even if he arrived at the palace, Dong Zhuo could scan the group of earth leopards with contempt. This is the vision, this is the confidence. Liu Bei looked at the high-end high-grade glass and swallowed saliva. In fact, except for Liu Bei who was swallowing, all the people who came to the front of the library were swallowing spit, although they couldn't go in. But that kind of luxury glass door really blinded everyone's eyes, whether it was uneven or not, and whether there were impurities in it. Anyway, it was such a big piece. It is enough to blind this group of earth leopards who have never seen the world. Looking at the entire library, the outside is not tiled like Liu Bei's house, but the roof is covered with almost the same bright red counterfeit glazed tiles. Flash, flash, Liu was relieved to see this scene. How much money Chen Shi spent was Chen Shi's business. As long as it really reached the situation that Liu Bei said at the beginning, it didn't matter. How much does this cost? Liu Bei's eyes were about to pop out. You must know that when these were built, Chen Shi had not yet sold the land. Why did he make so much money? This is simply unreasonable. As for the misappropriation of the treasury, what a joke. I really thought that Liu Bei didn't know anything. The treasury was basically empty at that time, and Chen Shi played what was called zero capital operation. I want to go in. Liu Bei took out his seal and shook it at the 1,000-man commander patrolling outside the outer wall of the library, and the other party quickly found Hua Xiong. No way. Recently, the cavalry had nothing to do, and Chen Shi transferred Hua Xiong and Zhong Fei to Fenggao to stabilize the security of Fenggao. After all, such a big money-burning building can't be ignored.
I've seen my lord. Hua Xiong clenched his fists and saluted, and his subordinates also followed. Open the door, I want to go in and see. What did Sichuan build the library look like? Liu Bei said to Hua Xiong as calmly as possible. He was frightened by Chen Shi's handwriting. Okay. Hua Xiong said with a wry smile. Then he took out the key and opened the door on the outer wall. He was also shocked when he received this patrol station this morning. How much does it cost? Lord, you can invite several representatives of the scholars to enter together, which can be regarded as living up to Sichuan's original promise. Liu saw that Liu Bei was about to enter, so he said in a low voice. Liu Bei nodded slightly, stopped, stood at the door of the library, turned to the scholars who were surging because of the opening of the library, and said, I am the General of Zhendong, Liu Xuande, the Marquis of Fanyang Pavilion, and I came here to check the completion of the library, and you can choose 10 people to enter with me. If Xuande Gong does not give up, I am willing to go in. A scholar in green clothes walked out with a smile. Liu Bei was stunned for a moment, and Maro Sui was not so calm when he recommended himself, so he smiled and nodded, but I don't know if anyone else can do it. Xuande Gong said that 10 people were selected, but he did not say how to select them. I feel that Chen Gongxi is qualified to select 10 people, and the number of 10 people is not full, why can't I? Chen Kai showed strong self-confidence and said with a smile. Well, you do qualify. Liu Bei nodded and said, his eyesight is not bad, although it was the first time he met, he had a feeling about Chen Kai, this person was not a person without virtue and talent. Since Xuande Gong said that there are 10 people who can enter, I don't know if the little girl is qualified. A quiet voice with a faint sadness came over, and the scene that was originally a little riotous suddenly quieted down, and when she looked at it again, Xi Zhaoji had already gotten out of the carriage and stood quietly next to the car holding Jiao Wei-Qin. Miss Se has something to say. How can it be impossible? Liu Bei said with a wry smile, only to see Liu gesturing towards Liu Bei. Liu Bei nodded slightly. Liu walked over and ordered someone to get out of the way and invite Yang in. I have seen Duke Xuande, Uncle Li, General Hua. Cai Yang walked in and saluted several people, and then followed Li Yu. Brother, help intercede. I'm also interested. Just when Hua Xiong was close to the crowd, an arm stretched out from the crowd, strangled Hua Xiong, and almost dragged Hua Xiong to the side of the forcer. You must know that Hua Xiong is a master of internal qi leaving the body. Even if it is inadvertent, it is enough to show that the strength of the force is not weaker than the peak of qi refining into a gang. The next moment, Hua Xiong felt the colorless inner qi rising in the other party's hand, although it had not been completely stabilized, but he was already a top master of the internal qi leaving the body. Hua Xiong laughed and stretched out his hand to wrap his arm around the other party's neck like a friend, and then the bright red inner energy gushed out, directly dragging the other party out, and suddenly Chen Ji's face was as dark as the bottom of the pot. As a stunned young man who had just come out of the mountain, his friend was forcibly moved to Mount Tai, and he came to save people without thinking, but he encountered this situation as soon as he came. Xuande Gong, this is my good friend, I haven't seen him in years, can you give him a place? Hua Xiong was upright but not a fool. Naturally he didn't say that he was now held hostage by the other party, such a shameful thing, saying that the two of them had already rattled each other's bones, and they were not easy to get along with. Since it is Zijian's recommendation, why not? Liu Bei said with a smile. Brother warns you, if you dare to go wild here today, I will let you write the word death. Hua Xiong said to Chen Ji in a voice that Liu Bei couldn't hear at all. You think I'm as brainless as you? I know when I enter Mount Tai, how can I do that kind of thing that hurts Duke Xuande? Chen Ji glared at Hua Xiong and replied in the same voice, count 1, 2, 3, everyone let go. I will definitely compete with you if I have the chance. Okay. Hua Xiong replied. He could feel the reverence for Liu Bei from Chen Ji's words, so he planned to believe it, not to mention that he and Chen Ji were so close. Xu Chu's attention also turned. Even if Chen Ji suddenly attacked, the two of them worked together to stop it. Chapter 239 I Have to Fight Again. Chen Shuji of Yuzhou has seen Xuande Gong. Read the latest and most complete novel after Hua Xiong released Chen Ji. Chen Ji respectfully bowed to Liu Bei. What a majestic man. Liu Bei said with a smile. Soon 10 people gathered. Liu Bei led everyone in, pushed open the 2 large pieces of glass. Liu Bei looked at the layout of his own home, and the rows of bookshelves that were already full of paper books and sighed. Wenru, not to mention how much Sichuan spent, but at least he wasn't joking at the beginning. Saying that, Liu Bei picked up a book on agriculture and sericulture from the bookshelf, and recorded in detail how to farm, very simple, and there was nothing superfluous. That is, a book about how to make your family's acre of land more productive. But this is a book after all, and it is basically not necessary to farm if you can understand it. At the end, I saw that the author, Zhao Yun, collected and compiled by Cookie, and it was also very bad to say that it was to be continued,
and it may be increased at any time in the future. After walking a few steps, he looked at the big political word, and pulled out another book, all about what kind of government affairs should be dealt with. Liu Bei no longer needs to read the author of the last page. It is definitely Liu Yi's book, a very useful book, and Liu Bei can also guarantee that there will definitely be unfinished words in the end. Liu Yi has been doing it for a long time, and it has not been done until now. He pulled out a few volumes from the largest bookshelf of the miscellaneous card, Confucianism, Taoism, metaphysical theory, and all kinds of legends of immortals and gods, geographical monsters. Is this miscellaneous to be all-encompassing? On the other side, Si Yang looked at the stack of music scriptures and was stunned for a moment, then took out a thin book and flipped through it. The content is clear in her heart, the music scripture restored by her father Se Yong. Thinking of this, Si Yang silently put the book back on the bookshelf. Her father never completed the book in his life, let alone spread it, and Taishan did what his father had always wanted to do. Chen Kai bought a book of Warring States policy that he had read, compared with the previous half-car books. This Warring States policy had already put it all away, and slowly put down the book in his hand. Looking at the annotations on the bookshelf full of various Warring States policies, Chen Kai silently stroked the bookshelf. It's also a good thing to be able to come to Mount Tai, at least the books on this shelf. I don't know how many people's wisdom crystallized. If Chen Shi were here, he would definitely tell Chen Kai. These things were exchanged by him and Zheng Xian and others. They came out of the original, out of people, and were willing to pay. Then he printed the book. When he sells it to the world in the future, the money he earns is still his own, and he is really a good person. In fact, a lot of Pang Digong's Art of War and Huang Chengyan's Formation, as well as Sima Hui's Political Strategy, were also printed. But those things were taken out of the hands of those three guys after Jian Yong grinded for a long time, and the most important thing was not the complete version. However, Ryo is so broad and profound, and the essence of the three families was copied by Chen Shi several times, except for sending back the paper version that did not cost money to the three of them. The molds have all been left in Mount Tai, for these things in hand. Pang Digong and the others looked at the paper version sent by their nephews, which was obviously a pity, and if they had known, they would have taken them all and let Taishan take out hundreds of sets of collections, but now they are all fragments. These three people belong to the enlightened faction. After all, they also gain new knowledge from Chen Shi when exchanging their own collections. For example, Chen Shi's forged version of Gongshu KitKat centered on agricultural tools, practical tools, and KitKat. These three people are more concerned about the communication of the wise, as well as the spark of thinking that collides in the exchange. These are the more important things, although the classics in the family collection are precious. But where is there a generation better than the next? It is important to innovate. When Liu Bei turned around and was about to leave, he noticed two lines of words engraved on the wall on both sides of the main entrance of the library. The sea can accommodate 100 rivers, and the wall stands tall without desire. Sichuan, Sichuan, you are really... Liu Bei sighed and said, not to mention how much these buildings are worth. Liu Bei knows better. That is, these books can be described as priceless, and I don't know how much effort Chen Shi spent to collect these books. Those thousands of volumes of books from the CI family are far less than one or two here, and I don't know how Chen Shi collected them. Xuandagong, this place can be described as a show of wisdom. Since Sichuan is like this, the building must have its own reason, and the scholars under the rule of Xuandagong can also return to Mount Tai, and the second step designed by Sichuan can also be opened. For thousands of years, the Pre-Qin sons extravagantly sought to open the wisdom for the people, and finally opened by Chen Sichuan. A warm smile appeared on Li Yu's face. Li Yu's whole person seemed to be bathed in brilliance, from the original indifference and ruthlessness to warmth, and the original faint feminine became magnificent and righteous, and at this moment he had seen his goal of pursuing 40 years. It's a pity that there is some heartache and expense. Liu Beilang said with a smile, let's go see the jingling hall, Sichuan won't let me down. Xuandagong, in the future, for the big family, if the other party is willing to submit, then it is allowed. If it is unwilling, then dispose of it at will. There is no need to take it into account. The era of thousands of years of wealthy families mastering wisdom will gradually come to an end. Sichuan has paved the road to destruction. Maybe this situation cannot be seen within 100 years, but the ending is doomed. Li Yu said respectfully. Chen Shi did what Li Yu wanted to do most, although it would take more than 100 years to see the results, but the return of the family to the dust was already doomed. As long as the world could not learn from the family, time would naturally fall after a long time, and the new family could no longer maintain the blessings that lasted for thousands of years like the spring and autumn aristocrats, and there was finally a glimmer of hope at the bottom. Although it was small, but it was no longer the dark situation before. I know. Liu Bei nodded and said, Sichuan told me a long time ago that there is no need to care about those. They will fall into the mortal world with their own glory, and the new brilliance will be reborn from the ashes on the ruins. Liu Bei doesn't know what is going on with Chen Shi's long-term arrangement, but this does not prevent Liu Bei's trust in Chen Shi. He believes that Chen Shi's every move will not harm him, although sometimes Chen Shi's style will scare him. But now that he thinks about it, it seems that every time it is the reason why his heart is not very good. Chen Shi did not mean it at all.
Fall into the mortal world.
Li Yu repeated softly. When did he begin to succumb to the huge shadow of the big family? When he was in high spirits to pull all the families into hell? When he once vowed to the sky to win a glimmer of life for a poor scholar like him? When did he begin to succumb to that great shadow? Li Yu slowly straightened his body. Yes, he had indeed let his heart dust. He did lose the pride of fighting with the big family of the family, lost the courage to fight with the poor family he represented, the courage to fight with his back. What if he failed? This time he had like-minded comrades in arms, no longer fighting alone. He was willing to step on the chariot again to fight for the ideas he once had.
Chapter 240 with honor.
Li Yu never felt that he was a good person. Of course, he didn't think that Chen Shi and Jioshu were good people. But today he suddenly felt that Chen Shi and Jioshu could actually be like-minded. Speaking of which, Li Yu knew that he was much weaker than Jioshu and others in the most basic intelligence. If he hadn't encountered Zishu when he was young, Li Yu knew very well that his material would never be able to go to this extent. Originally, according to Li Yu's own ability, it was already the limit to be able to reach the level of a quasi-first-class and middle-class strategist or civil servant. But the ability he showed now was actually not inferior to any first-class top strategist or civil servant, and his strongest point was his versatility. When he left his hometown when he was young, he saw that he had nothing to rely on, and he boldly said that he wanted to find a way out for the poor family, and he didn't want to ridicule Li Yu in middle age. How can you save the common people with your own strength? If you don't try, how can you know? If you don't try, how can you have no regrets?
Li Yu now remembers what he said at the beginning.
The middle-aged man was stunned, looked at Li Yu for a long time, and finally spoke. If you die, how can you have no regrets after the eternal infamy follows you?
Success or failure can only be evaluated if you have done it.
Li Yu said solemnly, only to see the middle-aged man looking at Li Yu in a daze. You will never be able to do it if you continue to learn like this. Your material is destined to make you unable to disdain the crowd. You have to do what you want to do. At least your own talents must be enough. Just you are a mere strategist now. What can you improve?
Please teach me, sir.
Li Yu said as if he was blessed to his heart, and his talent was no less than that of anyone else from that moment.
Okay.
I don't have anything to teach you, boy, but I know how to make you the best all-rounder in the world. Your spiritual talent itself cannot be awakened, and if you do not awaken your hidden power, you will never be able to stand at the top. Let me teach you how to open it. The man laughed, very satisfied with Li Yu's answer. Li Yu spent 10 years after supplementing his political strategy and military strategy, plus strategy, and he learned everything that civil servants could know. And they all reached the quasi-first class smoothly, and then his spiritual talent awakened. If quantified, Chen Shi showed 100 internal affairs. Jiao Wan has strategy is as high as 97 or 8, his military strategy is as high as 94 or 5, and his political strategy is also 91 or 12, and Li Yu's 3 items are about 87. But Li Yu's spiritual talent is balanced. When 3 or more attributes are of the same height, each item has risen by 10%, which means that Li Yu's original level is only 87. But in fact, all of them are 95 or 16 first-class tops, and the passive and effective comprehensive thinking talent is enough to make Li Yu of medium materials very scary. It is already terrible that all the all-round characters have reached the quasi-first class, and a panacea like Li Yu has reached the extreme, and each item has reached the first-class level. Even Jioshu feels very tricky in the face of Li Yu.
Because people know everything and are good at everything.
There is no such thing as being hit short by a long one, and every proper wooden board is the same length. This is why Jioshu has never heard Li Yu mention his spiritual talent, because Li Yu's spiritual talent has been effective from the moment it was opened, and it has always maintained Li Yu's current strength. My former oath, I am willing to undertake it again. Li Wenru will not be weaker than anyone. My strongest point is that there are no shortcomings, and my ending will never allow any shortcomings to be left. Li Yu silently thought that he had been decadent for a while, and now he also needed to think deeply. How could he give up his oath so much?
What are you thinking? Let's go.
Liu Bei took 2 steps and found that Li Yu, who had been following him, was gone, a little unaccustomed to it, and turned around to look at Li Yu, who had been looking gloomy, with a smile on his face, and for some reason Liu Bei felt a touch of warmth, so he asked with a smile.
It's coming.
Li Yu walked up quickly and followed Liu Bei closely. Through the shadow of the library, the late autumn sun shone on Li Yu's body, and suddenly there was a hint of warmth, following Xuan de Gong, to cross the family that has been insurmountable for thousands of years. This is what I have always desired. Taigong is 72 years old, I am only more than 40 this year, why waste my talents to learn? I feel that the literary scholars seem to have changed a lot. Seeing Li Yu follow, Liu Bei turned around and walked towards another building, muttering in a low voice.
Just figured out something.
Liu replied with a smile. There was no more dead air like the setting sun before, and the vitality emanating from the whole person infected the surroundings. I plan to live to see that day come. Ha ha ha, borrow a sentence from Chen Shi to teach the Confucian. Liu Bei laughed and said, I am very happy that Liu has a mentality now. You must know that Liu Bei is very satisfied with Liu's ability after getting along for such a long time. The art of war, military strategy, planning and design, mathematics and science are easy to learn, and Liu knows the 3 teachings and 9 streams as long as Liu Bei can ask. Please teach Xuandagong, Liu said with a smile. For tomorrow. Liu Bei stopped, looked at Liu in awe, and then said in a low voice. For tomorrow? Liu repeated, a touch of glory appeared on his face, and then nodded. It is indeed for tomorrow, not only for our tomorrow, but also for the people, the Han family, the world. Liu Bei said solemnly. The whole person was extremely high-spirited, looking at Liu. The road that Xuandagong is taking, Li Wenru will definitely check and fill in the gaps. Liu looked at Liu Bei and said word by word, his face solemn. Okay. If I, Liu Xuanda, achieve success in the future, I will not forget today. Liu Bei stretched out his right hand towards Li Yu, and Li Yu also slowly climbed up. Unlike Chen Shi's fleeting behavior of destroying the atmosphere, Li Yu's face also showed a look of honor. When Liu Bei staged the king and the wise, Chen Shi covered Chen Lan with a quilt, let the 2 maidservants be optimistic, and told the 2 to wake up Chen Lan at the meal to avoid Chen Lan sleeping and not wanting to eat, and then Chen Shi left Chen Lan's yard to see the traditional and simple. After all, when he came back, he should go to the traditional and simple to sign in, and the province said that one was thicker and the other was thin. Husband. Chen Shi looked at the wilted and flipping through the book on the bed, and knew that this guy was probably infected by Chen Lan. Go to sleep on your bed. Is your wedding dress embroidered? Chen Shi nodded at the center of Fan Jian's eyebrows, poured Fan Jian who was about to get up on the bed, and asked curiously. No, my mother said she was ready for me. What's wrong? Fan Jian asked puzzledly. Embroidering a wedding dress is a very troublesome thing. Since her mother has prepared for her, she doesn't want to waste too much time. After all, she is so tired, to embroider it beautifully, it is impossible for her to do it for more than half a year. Oh, it's nothing. Who prepared my clothes? Chen Shi suddenly remembered a question. It seems that no one made his groom's costume. His mother died when he was very young, he fell out with the family, and there was no aunt to prepare these, so what should he do with his clothes at that time? Fan Jian was stunned directly, and asked mutteringly, Husband, didn't you prepare your clothes? Black clothes with gold patterns, matching the costumes of the princes. Chen Shi was directly dumbfounded. He thought that someone had prepared it for him. He had nothing to say so. He had already obtained information about himself from Chang'an, Liu Biao, Liu, Guosai in order to win over Liu Bei. When he got married, he was given a marriage, and then he gave Xu Gong, gave a Gui, rewarded the Marquis of Yingshangting, and the wedding was saved for a long time, and when the time came, it was the costumes of the princes and kings. Anyway, when the time comes to get married, the knighthood still has to change clothes. The princes and kings are definitely not normal, but they will definitely prepare the knighthood at that time. Husband, why don't you contact the Chen family? After all, Mrs. Chen himself is a marquis, and there is no problem in distributing these things. Fan Jian said in a low voice, after all, it is too late to catch up with the system now, and the most important thing is that when the Han dynasty was knighted, it was only given a seal, not a robe, which made Chen Shi not easy to pretend.